Good evening, Board Directors, Superintendent Larios, staff, parents, students. Thank you for joining us this evening, as well as those attending online. I will now call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have the agenda before us, as you can see. If there aren't any changes, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as is.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions around the agenda? Okay. All in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We now have an agenda presented before us. So one item on the agenda is staff, students, and school recognition. But before that, I just want to thank everyone for being here. It is nice to see a lot of faces here today, both parents and staff. And so thank you for joining us today. So the number one item here that we have is Valor Middle School, who will be presenting. Mrs. Hampton.
Anna Hansen, principal at Valor Middle School. Maria Cruz, assistant principal at Valor Middle School. So we want to start off with our staff recognition. Surprise, come up here. No, seriously, come up here. Yeah.
I know you guys were trying to avoid eye contact, but let's do it.
So I'm going to start off with, thank you. Okay, so we have Linda right here. Linda, these are words that a lot of our staff members shared about them. So we had so many kind words and positive praises. I had to condense it. So this is like really the smaller version of everything. Linda, she's keeping a middle school building, she's keeping it clean, and it's not an easy task, but Linda manages to do that. She keeps all of her boys happy, and she provides any special assistance that other staff members ask for. Linda is one of the most positive and solution-focused people I have ever had the pleasure to work with. Linda is a very friendly person. She's always ready to help when there's a problem, and consistently follows through. Thank you, Linda. Then we have Janie right over here. So it says, Janie is the glue that holds Valor together. She knows each employee well and is always willing to offer help to those in need. She is always kind and calm, despite the fact that her job can be incredibly stressful. Janie is the epitome of a Renaissance woman. She is a blessing to Valor and our academic community. Janie basically runs the school. She is always ready to help and support everyone that comes to the office. She is friendly, kind, professional, empathetic, and very organized. Thank you, Janie. And we have Gina right over there. Gina is such a wonderful help for students and staff. The kindness and understanding she extends to our students is unparalleled and truly inspiring. Gina is kind, friendly, and always ready to help out. She is such a champion for our students and their family. Thank you, Gina, for always willing to help and support us. Gina has tremendous generosity with her time and organizes so much for the low-income students during the holidays. Thank you, Gina. Okay. All right, and we have Wendy right here, one of the counselors. Wendy she has such a big heart. She has the love for students and staff. I have never been around someone whose care and attention to detail soothes and calms students so easily. Wendy always has a smile on her face. The students are blessed to have her as one of their counselors. She is very supportive of our students and our teachers. Her positive attitude helps students to feel comfortable to get the support they need. Thank you, Wendy, for being there to support our students' social and emotional needs. Thank you, Wendy. All right, we got the amazing Angelica. Angelica is an amazing math teacher. She cares for her students a lot. Angelica is such an integral part of the Valor community. Her love for learning and math combine to create an environment where any student can learn and feel safe and seen for who they are. Angelica she has amazing organizational skills in organizing school-wide testing. That's true. Angelica is always willing to take on a new challenge. Just this year, she has taken on the testing coordinator, after-school intervention coordinator, 8th grade leadership teacher, garden club. She takes on all these new tasks, performs them well, and also builds and maintains great relationships with her students. Thank you, Angelica.
No. Oh, I was gonna say something about that. Can I say, okay. So I know that I didn't write something down because I wanted to really to come from the heart. And I think every day I express to every single one of you how much I appreciate you. Angelica has so many hats. She helps in FAMUM, she stays in my side council, she's part of my leadership, so is Wendy. Linda, I can ask for someone better to like really help me in the school to hold it together. Every day when I call her, if I stay after school, she will come just to check on me to make sure that they are helping me cleaning the stuff. And that is just amazing. She goes above and beyond. Janie Kincaid is my confidant. I don't know, she's family. I love her so much. I love them all so much. I feel like Valor has become family for me. She really is, I don't know how she does it all. I really don't know how would I be there without her. I cannot be a principal without her. Her support has been unconditional. Anything that I ask, she's always willing. She answers my phone, my calls all the time. I don't know why she continues to do it, but I appreciate her. Yeah, I am the boss, but she doesn't have to. She knows that. I hope so. And Gina, oh my gosh, Gina, the love, support that all the staff members have for the students. But Gina really helps a lot of my newcomer students, and that love and support the students who need the most support. I am just so happy to have her be part of the Valor family. I have so many amazing teachers, and so this really doesn't it doesn't even like, I don't even know how to say it, because at this point it's like I have so many amazing staff. It was so hard to choose who I was going to be recognizing today, and why was actually really easy because I know the why. I know why they're here, and I know how important they are for the Valor family.
Okay, so now we're going to recognize some pretty amazing students. If you know who you are, can you make your way up here? Luis Leon. Ariane Hernandez. Rowan Riddle. Josme Morales. Okay, doke. We're gonna start with Luis. You ready to hear all the awesome things people had to say about, they had a lot of things to say, but I had to pick a few things, okay? So Luis Leon, he's an excellent writer, reader, and problem solver. Luis is the type of leader you want in all your classes. His dedication to his studies help him stand out in the classroom. His teamwork shines through on the basketball court and in his commitment to himself and with his straight A's. Luis is a scholar who has ability and opportunity to make serious changes in our world. He is an amazing student to have in class. Luis does an excellent job of facing new tasks with a growth mindset and a positive attitude. Good job, Luis. Rowan. Oh, there you are. She is an amazing student. She works hard, she stays on task, and is very helpful to her classmates. She is kind, friendly, and engaging. She cares about herself, her future, and her classmates. She's an outstanding, driven, considerate, and action-based student who always goes out of her way to ask for opportunities to help others. She is constantly taking the initiative to go the extra mile to make things look better or run smoother for the greater good of Valor students. And one student said, "I would love to have a class full of Rowans any day." Good job. Okay, Ariadne, ready? She is very kind and respectful. She always amazes me with her dedication. She's an amazing student to have in class. She is one of the most self-motivated scholars in and out of the classroom. Her personal drive comes from the constant love and support of her family. She is always trying to grow her mind and skills to ensure she keeps opportunities coming her way. Good job. Okay, Smith is an excellent thinker and communicator. He's an amazing self-starter who takes challenges to new heights. He incorporates valuable information that connects his work to his native culture of Puerto Rico to share with all. Josmith has a great sense of his future and has ambitions that drive his motivation on a daily basis. Since he moved to Woodburn School District during this year, he jumped in with both feet and has been thriving ever since. And he does exemplary work. He not only has been a source of inspiration for everybody in the classroom, but he reflects a distinguished commitment to educational excellence. Good job.
So I'm gonna say a little something about each of them. It's gonna be tiny. Luis Leon is so kind, so sweet, so respectful. I think you're such a positive influence with your friends. I really appreciate that about you. Ariadne, you have been amazing. I think this is your second year to be here. I think your work, what you do, your dedication, and how you represent your family, it's fantastic. Rowan, well, your emails asking me for funding, they're amazing. I love them. I really love that you're so dedicated to Valor and to the students and that you really want to make sure that we're supporting them all, right? And they all have a little piece to share. Jasmine, I love when you come to my office and you think you're getting in trouble because you never get in trouble. So I just don't know how that happens, but I really appreciate you. I really appreciate when you come and you tell me your stories and, you know, La Novia and all of that. It's all great. It's all great. I love him. So I love you all. I really appreciate what you do for the school because you guys are leaders in the school. I have a lot of you guys. I know I have a lot more students who are like you. This time we decided to honor you because you guys have done so amazing and we're so proud of you. Thank you for being part of Valor. Do you want this?
I'll do it. We're gonna have everybody go that way.
Everybody want to come
So we're gonna get a picture.
Oh, you guys too, don't be shy, come on up. Crowd in there. Y'all shift that way towards
Yeah.
Mr. Medina. Go ahead and go underneath the TV kind of area. Squeeze on over. Come on, more, come on, more. All right, right here, ready? 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna zoom in a little bit and get a video. They like that online. Thank you for your patience. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you, guys. Okay, we're done, right? Where? Can we pull up the check? So, can you guys hear me okay? I'm so loud. I feel like I don't need a microphone. So we're okay. Okay, well, this year is my first year as principal at Valor, and I do want to talk to you guys about what's going great and, you know, some of the challenges that we have. In front of you, I created a little infographic of the district goals, and our focus for this year is really positive relationships among students and staff, in making sure that we're creating like a safe space for students. At the bottom, you have goal 1, goal 2, and goal 3 for Valor Middle School specifically. So I'll start with the presentation, but if you see there, this is the way that I started my year at Valor. We started talking about every child needs a champion. I do believe, and my staff knows this, that that for me, they are that person. They are that champion that they need. They are that cheerleader that they need, that they're gonna be there for them. It's an amazing video. If you ever have the opportunity to watch it, is from Rita. It's such a great video. It talks about how we have to focus on the positive that the students do and not so much on the negative. And so how do we, you know, we go about that? And so one of the things that we did, and I know is, you know, I try to connect with what's going on. And so one of the things that we do is the student achievement, and that's why the heart is there. So when I say, you know, what is our focus this year, and I go like this to my staff, they should know that is the student achievement, right? So that's what we focus on. I know you guys think it's funny, but it's cute. It's cute. But that is our thing, right? Our center of everything for me is the connections and having that student achievement, making sure that we focus on the whole child. That is so important for me. And for the staff, it's just so key that we are just moving forward on that.
All right, I'll read them out loud. Goal number 1, all students will graduate ready to pursue college, career options, and success in life. Do you want me to go on to the next one? Okay. And number 2 is foster our culture of engagement and partnerships.
So you are familiar with these goals. These are the goals for the district. The first goal, and I'm gonna go on the data for goal number 1, which for us was really focused on MTSS. If you see it in your goals, we're gonna talk about them all, but we're trying to improve the school climate and a sense of the school safety, creating a nurturing community with our school. So we are definitely focused on that. We did decide to focus on attendance only because we know that we have to have some focus that is data-driven. But we also are focusing on that safety piece when it comes to that, because we know that that is so important for students to be present. So if you see our goal for, you know, for this year is supposed to be 68%. I know that we're not there. The goal, the way the numbers were last year, it was really hard. We were at 48% for regular attenders. So we are trying to make that impact in making sure that we're growing. The thing that I want to focus on is the fact that our students are present more now than they were before. So we are seeing that growth happening. So we are hoping that by the end, we are going to be able to actually meet our goal. For our goal 2, basically, I'm going to explain goal 2 and goal 3 combined because it's English reading, and then we have our math goal. For us at Valor, we're really focusing on closing that achievement gap and what does that look like. So we have students who are grade level. We want to make sure that they continue to grow. Make sure, a seventh grader will move up, right, and be in eighth grade at that level. And for everyone else who is not at grade level, we want to make sure that they're growing at least 1.5, 1.5 year, which is a 0.5 in the growth index score based on maps. For our reading goal, as of right now, the data that we have is basically that we have 90% of the students at high average, have a growth index of basically at 66%, 66.7% have a growth index score of 0 or above. That means that they are continuing at the same levels, which is good. Like, that means that they're growing as they're supposed to be growing. Does that make sense? Yes? If not, just stop me and ask me questions. But at the first one, where you see the low or low average, it means that the students have growing index. Like 32% of the students have growing index score of 0.25. So they're halfway or more to their annual target. So we are growing, we're not there yet. We don't have all the numbers yet. Anyways, we are just in the middle of testing. So that is a really low number. That's why the numbers look so low. It's because we haven't tested everyone yet. So we're working on that still. And so the goal, like I said, can you go to the next slide? The goal for math is the same goal. We're trying to make sure that we're closing that achievement gap. So we are trying to make sure that our students are growing. And so for this one in particular, 58% of the students at low or low average have a growth index of 0.25. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. 75 of 265, which is 28% of the students have a growth index score of 25.25 or above, which means like they are meeting their annual target right now, but we are still working on that. We haven't finished the testing yet. We still have like a few students that when I pulled the data, at least we hadn't finished, and the window doesn't close until next week. We pushed the data. We pushed the date, right? To extend it until the 31st. Is that, yeah, I think so. So I think what I want to go with these goals is like we are making that progress, and we're seeing that our students are trying and they are growing, at least when it comes to the map data. That's what we are seeing, right? We are gonna analyze the data again, and they're gonna get another test at the end of the year. So we have the first assessment that they take at the beginning during the fall, then we have the winter assessment, and then we have also the end of the year assessment that they're gonna take, the spring assessment. So they take this assessment 3 times a year. So school safety. We have made a lot of progress. I felt like, oh, thank goodness. So we did survey our students to see how safe they were feeling. One of the things that we did this year, at the beginning of the year, was to focus really on making those connections like between staff and students, and not only teachers. We want to make sure that everyone was making those connections. So our school, or our students, feel like 77% of our students feel more safe at school. And then when they're feeling upset, we have a 64% of the students that they have someone who they can go and talk to. I really feel like, a part of my school's community, about 72% of the students feel like that. There's still room for improvement, obviously, right? We would like those numbers to be 100%, but for being a December survey, I think it's pretty good. So we're working on it.
To ask you,
Yeah.
just so, because obviously you see the numbers, big difference. We're only a third of the way through the year.
Yeah.
Or however you look at it. So what do you think is contributing to these numbers at this point?
So I really want to believe that my teachers are putting in the effort to make those connections and really get to know the students. We added 2 campus monitors on site. We want to make sure that we're not blind to the problem, right? We know that we needed some other type of supports, and we want to make sure that we had the stuff that we needed for, like, you know, whatever the data told us last year. We were like, I need this, and that's what we advocated for, and we got that. So I feel like we are really trying to have, I have two amazing counselors that are really connecting with my students. So those are things that I really feel like are helping. We have a mentorship program that my teachers actually are part of, and is a volunteer, they volunteer to do this. So I have about 12, 14 mentors who are teachers who give up their prep or after school to meet with the students in order to connect with them to really, you know, so I have a lot of staff who are putting in the effort to do this. This is not me. This is like everyone else who is really taking a part of being like part of Valor.
So is this direct student engagement, or was there already family engagement on top of that?
We have, I think family engagement has been really hard for us. We do have those parents who are always there. We have a high participation right now in Psych Council. We didn't have that last year. I feel like we are coming along with like really connecting. Also, the communication coming from us to the house has been really great. I think Mr. Will implemented, like, we are doing newsletters, which I think sometimes we overdo it. I feel like parents are like, oh no, there's so many. But I think they love them at the same time, if that makes sense. Just because it is a way for us to really connect with them. At the end, you'll see a lot of the things that we're doing that I think have really, that are really driving this sense of belonging, this sense of connections, and this sense of safety at the school. So we'll definitely touch on that. Yeah. So when it comes to the behavior data, we do have students who have claimed to be part of either Sureños or Norteños, and they have been placed in contracts at the school. Those are behavioral contracts, and they are really with me and the student, or with admin and the student. We try to hold them accountable, making sure that they are wearing appropriate attire. We try to make sure that they are not influencing other kids. We are kind of, this is a contract that we have between them and the parent and admin. And we involve the counselor. The counselor is there for support, to make sure that they have that other piece, right? Like, not only we are doing this, you know, because of what you did, but we also want you to receive some level of support. So we do have also drug and alcohol referrals. We have six are for drugs or weed, and then we have 2 for nicotine. Or 1 for nicotine and 1 for alcohol, yes.
So I want to go back to
Yes.
Students on gang contracts.
Yes.
How well is that working?
So, well, so it's hard. It's like a dress code, but we limit their interactions. It really depends on the contract. We try to make sure that they're individualized, like it's based on each student and based on what they have done. So if I have a student, for example, who has SAG or anything like that, then we put them on a very specific contract in which, like, they're not allowed to use the bathrooms in the hallways. They need to come to the office. We have someone who comes over. So we try to really work with them. And they don't have to be in the contract all the time, right? At some point, they are free. Like, you know, we put a deadline to it, and we try to make sure that they're able to work towards getting out of that contract. So this is something also that, to this point, the parents have supported as well. And the contract is called, you know, behavioral contract, and it's essentially that, like, we're gonna be making sure that we're holding you accountable for the actions that you're doing. And that one thing that I communicate with them is like, I need you guys to stop this nonsense of, like, because this is not even a real thing, right? You are in middle school, you really don't know what you're getting into, and it's so easy to claim to be part of something. So this is why we have that mentorship program, because we try to connect them to make sure that they have someone else who they can look up to. So the contract really serves the purpose of, like, these are the things that you're not supposed to be doing, and, you know, at some point we need to suspend, then we suspend.
And something you said, just going back,
Mhm.
in regards to the gangs, you mentioned something about the attire,
Mhm.
and, you know, how do you facilitate that? Like, how do you bring attention to it, and how do you minimize it?
Mhm.
How do
So-
you how do you connect with the youth in regards to that?
Yeah, so basically I have, when we put them in a contract, we have very specific colors that they have self-identified. So once they have done that, then I'm very specific when it comes to that to let them know, okay, your student has done this, they have self-identified. So for this reason, they're not allowed to wear this specific color at school. I do have students, because I do want to be honest, I have students who wear those colors, right? But they're not part of that, or, because it's so different, right? It's a very specific shirt, it's a very specific pant that at least at Valor, we have been lucky to recognize what it is exactly and what are they wearing, and we see the little group, and so we have been very specific about that.
And they help to educate. They also help to educate parents because
Mhm.
parents are not always aware, so they're shopping,
Mhm.
with what the kid wants. So it's for educational purposes with the contract used with parents.
So would you say you met with parents
Mhm.
because they're part of the contract? Would you be able to share, so these students who claim to be
Mhm.
part of a group, I mean, are their families also a part of these groups?
So generally speaking, no. For the most part, I have a lot of the students who are not part of it. And then some of them, I'm gonna say a couple maybe have ties to that, and it's really unfortunate. And so, when we know that, I have very specific contracts with, when I know that, and when we know that there has something that has been, that there has been discipline for that, then we can take action on that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I do have another question. 'Cause
Yeah.
I did read the policy on secret societies, and is there any recruiting from what you observe in wanting to connect or recruit other students to participate?
So, part of like what we did, was really trying to, we have seen that they were bringing clothes for other students. So that's one of the things that we stopped, not allowing other students to share their clothes with everyone else. We cannot really confirm. I had one incident that we were able to confirm, and discipline was given, and so we do follow the process that we need to follow, the policy when it comes to those things, because we will not tolerate that type of behavior. So for those students, we have very specific contracts to the point that we have removed passing period or lunch. So we provide the support, but we are also able to hold the students accountable for their actions, because I cannot just let someone be free and you're recruiting kids. So we are trying to be very good in holding students accountable, but also providing that support.
In regards to that, earlier you mentioned the fact that you stated, I think, something like, they don't know what they're doing. They're so young, their minds are still, trying to grasp life. And you also mentioned education.
Mhm.
Are you, I guess I'm trying to make sense of what the education looks like, and do you guys capitalize, if you will, on their vulnerability, on their young minds, to be able to instill change, a mentality and whatnot, to make them understand what following that path truly does?
Yes.
How do you guys address that?
So we have our counselors talk to them. We actually have referred them to counseling services as well. I was a counselor myself, and I really believe that, if you have the right person, if you have the right mentor, there's always a room for them to change, right? There's always that opportunity of growing and being different. I do feel like building those connections really helps, because when they do something that maybe is a little bit out of line, if you have that conversation with them and bring it up to their attention, they're able to really recognize that at the end of the day, you're there to support them and to keep them safe. And so I think they do acknowledge that. And I feel like they are trying, whatever that is, right? They could say, it doesn't matter. I'm going to wear whatever I want. It doesn't matter. I'm going to hang out with whoever I want. But that just the little effort that they put sometimes into avoiding their friends, or into, coming into the bathroom, even that, right? Coming in the bathroom in the office, it means, we gotta recognize that. And I think that's part of that. What we're doing is recognizing the little things or the little steps that they're taking. We sometimes, the mentors buy them lunch, and like they can eat with them. So we do little things for them to really acknowledge the fact that we care about them and we're here for them. There's no need for them to be out there. We are hoping to have some mentors come in and we created, the stage has video games and it has ping pong tables. It has a football table. Those are things that we're hoping, is gonna attract them more to come over and to really be part of, like, just staying there instead of staying outside. So I think we are taking steps to make sure that they feel like they belong with us and they don't have to belong to something else.
And based and going back to the attire, so you kind of have an idea of
Mhm.
what kids want to be involved or want to be part of that.
Mhm.
How many would you say roughly in your school are there potential gang members or actual gang members?
I don't know that I have a number specifically of potentially wannabes, just because it's so hard to determine that. Because a lot of the kids do like, like the Pro Club pants, right? And I'm just like, oh, well, everybody's wearing them nowadays. So like, I don't know how to distinguish based on that. I think what has helped us a lot is really not guessing who is or who's gonna become. It's more like those connections that the staff has or the connections that we have been able to build with the students, because they will come and tell us who is doing what. And so that has really helped us to really kind of identify who we need to talk to and or what is the need, right, in the building. So I think we have really done a good job about not just guessing. It's more like they self-identify, or we know for a fact because someone came and we talked to them, and like we have the counselors really take it from that approach of like, how can we help you? And we do sometimes when we connect with the parents, it really helps because parents are not aware. And once they become aware, they kind of put a stop to it. So it's really, that has really helped us.
And in these instances, like you said, there's wannabes, and have you been able to identify a potential, like, I mean, a recruiter, a leader? Because working in youth corrections now, I
Mhm.
see that the focus on the person in charge, the leader, however you want to put it, does have an effect. You go for the leader
Yeah.
to see if you can implement change there, because obviously they have an effect that trickles down.
Yeah.
So how would you, if you were able to identify a person that leads,
Mhm.
how would you address that?
So as of right now, I have one student, but we are really working with him to really kind of provide the support. We have eliminated passing periods and lunch, but at the same time, we have the counselors who meet with this specific student and we provide extra support. Like we provide interventions, we have a parent coming and picking them up. So we are trying really to be not only tough love, but also showing them that we care, right? And every day when the student asks me, hey, have I been doing good? I'm like, yeah, you have. It is 11 a.m. Let's keep it up, guys. So it's just not that thing of like really connecting with the kids and knowing that we are there and we are watching them and we really care. We want them there, but we want them there for the right reasons, right? And like, how are we gonna help them grow? So I think that has been really key when it comes to that.
And there's accountability across the board, correct?
Yes, I will hope so. Yeah, I think it's working right now. Yeah, we do. I think one of the things I think my staff knows is really I'm really high on accountability, not only when it comes to my students, but to my staff, especially to myself. I think we work really hard to make sure that the students feel safe. That's the most important thing for me, making sure that they're safe. I do call them out. I do have really good relationships with them. I do have the parents who get mad at me every once in a while. It has to happen, right? But I have to make sure that I'm taking care of the 620 kids that I have on campus, right? So that's our focus, making sure that they're safe, that they feel welcome, and that they feel like they belong. And so, yeah, we're working with those students.
And so outside of school, I mean, there's services provided within your school, and then student services provide services for students
Mhm.
who might be on a contract. Are they receiving services outside of the building?
Yes, so we have referred them, we have two different providers, so we have referred the students. Some of the students are receiving services. One of our providers has started today, and we have about 8 referrals. Some students, unfortunately, or families, due to culture, maybe don't believe in counseling. So we're really trying to we continue to connect with them and explaining to them what it is. And I bring it from my perspective of like, I became a counselor. My mom didn't believe in counseling. So that is really a good, like, a good way to connect with them about how helpful it could be for them to really like receive some or talk to someone else that is not their parents, that is not their friends, right? Because friends are influencing them in that different way. And then, you know, parents are always like, you're not supposed to do that and all of that. So we want to make sure that they have someone else who they can go to.
And then looking at this number, the 77% of students who feel safe during school.
Yeah.
And then looking at the behavior data, is it concerning at all? Like when you see both of those numbers?
When you're looking at the fights,
Or just all of them and just all of them combined?
so I think we have made a lot of progress from last year. In all honesty, it was rough last year. I don't even know how to put it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because it was really hard last year. I think both middle schools had it really hard last year. I think we have made a lot of progress when it comes to really, you know, just being there for the kids and just having the teachers connect with them. And so I feel like it has gotten a lot better just because if you guys know middle schoolers, which I'm sure you all know, middle school is all social emotional, right? It's all, everything, you have to address every little thing because it turns into this big drama. And it turns into this like, oh, like she said this, or she's wearing the same color. And I'm like, really? Like this is what we're dealing with today. So, but we have to address it. So I think, you know, having that and having the fact that we have been doing mediations, we have been doing all these things, we have been able to prevent a lot of things. I think it has been really great. We do still have the students who get into throwing bodies, right? Things that happen in school. They want to see who is better. We still give them consequences because we do believe in accountability. And it's one of the things that we have presented since the beginning of the year is you are not going to be doing this type of things because someone can get hurt regardless. So.
And then my last question is, when we have this consistent behavior just kind of happening, and we provide services, but at what point is there like a stop or like, when is enough enough?
So I don't think we ever can stop providing services, but we do suspend students. We have to, you know, it depends on, we do progressive discipline all the time. So, you know, a student gets into a fight or whatever that might be, they get suspended. And then the next day, we continue to have those re-entry meetings with the parents. We continue to provide support or trying to provide support depending on the situation, right? So yeah, we just really continue to provide that support for the parents and making sure that we connect, but we do have to, our last resource will be like to suspend the students.
Do you have any repeated
Repeated offenders.
offenders or?
Yes, I do.
When you say suspend students, is that physical suspension or suspension?
It's both. Yeah. But it really depends on what it is, on what the,
Can you speak to that suspension data?
Mhm.
My assumption would be long term, I always believe it's better to keep the student
Mhm.
at the school engaged however we can. Can you speak to circumstances in which a student would have to be, go through at-home suspension and the process to bring them back to the school and what we're doing to make sure the student's always feeling connected?
and what was the last part?
Make sure they're always feeling connected to
Oh,
the
yeah.
school.
So we suspend, for example, for fights. It's one of our policies. We suspend them for fighting. We suspend them for using drugs or bringing drugs to school. If someone comes, for in this case, the alcohol referral that I have is the student who was drunk in school. So we suspend for that, obviously. Then we do a referral. Depending on what it is, we do a referral. When they come back, we meet with the parent, the student, and with the counselor to make sure that we do a reentry meeting. And then we kind of go over expectations again of this is what happened, this is how can we prevent it, what's gonna happen next, and what kind of supports and then we try to see if the same thing is happening at home or what is happening at home in order to really pinpoint how or what type of support they need.
And so these numbers on the behavior data,
Mhm.
that's total this year?
Yes, has till last week, yes.
So my understanding, like you said, last year was a rough year
Mhm.
based on the information I received. You
Mhm.
know, so law enforcement engagement has reduced greatly,
Yes.
drastically.
Yes, and law enforcement is always engaged with us in a very positive way too. I want to acknowledge that because they come over to support us and in different ways, right? If we have a student who maybe is thinking about, like today, I had one of my kiddos ask me if Officer Avila was going to come because he wanted to talk to him about wrestling or he wanted to talk about joining boxing. And I just feel like having him on site has been so helpful because they're able to see him not only in the light of like law enforcement is gonna get you in trouble, but they're there to support you. He never brings his stickers, but it's okay because we're middle school apparently. But you know, it's the thing that we wanna make sure that the students know. So, yeah, we haven't had law enforcement actually take part into things. I do wanna say that I will, you know, if needed, right? That's why we have them, but luckily we have had a lot of issues not happen this year. So we are really happy that, you know, things are getting better at Valor and that the staff is really being the support system that the students need.
And just out of curiosity, last question.
Yeah.
You talked about, she mentioned repeat offenders.
Mhm.
Of the 5 fights,
Uh-huh.
are those all individual youth or are any of them the same youth?
Two of them were no, but she was the victim. Yes, two of those are repeated. Yeah, like one person is repeated. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Of course. Next. I think so, right? Next, next slide. So, fighting, I talked to you guys about, accountability, right? And we talked a little bit about, you know, finding that right balance. I forgot.
Yeah, I got the fun slide. So the top left was a fun competition because we were finding that students were showing up to school a little bit more, but they weren't showing up on time. So they had a fun competition between grade levels. Um, and it helped motivate a bit. It was nice because they were like in a slump and then that helped. It was fun. What did they win?
Raptor tickets.
Oh yeah, extra
a
Raptor
lot of
tickets.
things. There were like 3 different things.
Yeah. And then they had the movie night. It was kind of like a theme at the end of the competition as well, the Mario movie night. And kids are really excited about that. So they tend to stay out of trouble. They tend to be more on task in their class and show up on time. And then I can't read the top right. The tardies. That's the accountability that we have. Then we had the holiday sale. Is that the rummage sale?
Yeah.
Yeah, that they love that so much because they collect the Raptor tickets and then they use it as I guess a bartering system to trade for something and it just kind of helps with positive behavior in in the school. And then these are the signs and the expectations on the lower left to keep reminding students, and they're sent out in the weekly newsletters as well. So those are things that help us find the right balance.
So, what are we doing at Valor? We have had Spirit Weeks. We do, the staff has been doing really great about sending postcards home. We do also positive office referrals. One of the things that last year happened is that I saw a lot of the students who were getting in trouble, and I didn't get to see a lot of the students who were doing great things. So because we're focusing on the positive things, we did create a positive office referral. So where the teachers actually choose the students and they're able to give them a referral. They come see me. I call their parents. On Friday, they get ice cream. They love it. They love when I call. They're always checking when I don't call the same day. They come back the next day and say, Hansen, are you going to call? I'm like, I will. I'm going to call. Don't worry. So it's one of the things that they really love and value. And so, like I said, we have the mentorship program that has been really great. So these are the ways that we're doing, that the ways that what we're doing to try to connect with the parents, but also with the students, right? For them to know that we are doing a little extra for them to make sure that, we value who they are and that we see them all the time. And then a lot of things that are happening, we have with leaders, we have leadership in each grade level, 6, 7, and 8. Outdoor school, we have done outdoor school with 6th grade this year only. We have cultural day, and we have the positive office referrals. I got to take pictures. I think after that, I was like, maybe I shouldn't be in the picture anymore. And then we had Unity Day. My staff were orange shirts to represent that we're standing up against bullying. We did a little competition with the students to make sure that they felt like they're part of this movement and that we want to make sure that we see that bullying is a concern and that we want to address it. So they were all wearing orange. We brought extra shirts to give out too for students who maybe don't have them, and we gave them out during lunch. So we're trying to really support everyone. And that's all we have. Do you have more questions?
I
Please
do have
go ahead.
more questions.
Yes.
Well, thank you for presenting, and also
course.
it's nice to see progress as we're working towards creating a better place for our students. What is like the greatest challenge at this time?
The greatest challenge I think, really, I know that I said I'm focusing on the whole child, but I think really, it's really hard to do that, right? When we have a lot of, like, the middle school has a lot of social and emotional concerns. This year has been a lot better. I can say that with confidence, that we have worked so hard and the staff has worked really hard, and I acknowledge all the work that they have done to really get to where we are at now. There's a lot that we need to do, but I think that is the challenge, is to focus really in the whole child, because there are so many social emotional needs that we have in the school. That is really hard for us to really focus like right on the academic. One of the things that I did this year is I want to provide a safe haven for my students. And I think that has been really my focus. And sometimes I do want to say that it has been really hard, right, to really just have or push with like the scores and like what are we going to do academically when the students are struggling at home. So like finding that and knowing that the community that we live in has needs, right? And acknowledging those needs and trying to provide for each child what they need has been like the challenge. I think that's the biggest thing, is like everyone is so different and everyone has different needs. So to meet those needs for each student is, I think, has been like really, like that's the biggest challenge, just to make sure that I see them as an individual and not as a whole.
Thank you. Good. Any other questions?
Yay. High five. Thank you.
Thank you.
For you guys that we made, because I don't know if you saw my students are wearing the Valor shirt. I made one for you guys. You guys got Valor, and it has your last name in the back.
Oh, nice.
Heritage, I mean, they're gonna come visit, but okay, I'll leave them with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Principal Sherilyn Rawson with Heritage Elementary School.
Good evening, Superintendent, members of the school board, and members of the community. It is my pleasure to introduce some amazing students, some amazing staff, and some amazing parent and community members. We're going to be honoring two students tonight, Asher Baird and Efren Vieira Gonzalez. Asher and Efren, if you could come on up, please. Asher has been nominated for his academic achievement and for his leadership. Asher consistently exceeds expectations in all academic areas. He is a talented and gifted student, scoring in the top quintile in English reading and in the 98th percentile in math in his most recent district assessments. His in-class work is also consistently excellent. He's also a leader among his peers. Teachers report that he is a positive role model and example to others, both in his homeroom classroom and in other classes. For example, his PE teacher shares that Asher has always been a positive student and gives a great example for the rest of his classmates. We appreciate Asher for his achievement and for his leadership. Congratulations, Asher. Efren has been nominated for his incredible growth and improvement in several areas. Efren's attendance this quarter is over 95%, which is a huge improvement from his last quarter attendance percentage of 76%. That was huge. It also surpasses his attendance goal for the year, which is a little over 85%, right? Yes, so he's already ahead of the game. He's also shown a lot of growth in English reading. He went from the 12th percentile this fall to the 56th percentile this winter, which is a growth of 26 RIT points, but it puts his growth rate in the 99th percentile compared to his peers. You grew more than almost anybody from fall to winter who started where you did. His classroom teacher reports he's also made significant growth in math. He is getting 2s and 3s on his exit tickets this quarter. In the first quarter, he got mostly 1s. She says, yes, attendance matters. Congratulations to you. A former teacher shared, Efren was my student in 3rd grade. He is a student who I remember not only for his willingness to learn and to become better every day, but for his amazing respect and kindness toward others in class. I'm glad he's being honored for his great effort to grow and that he's made such tremendous achievement. His PE teacher also shared that Efren has shown tremendous growth in his self-confidence and in his ability to be socially active with his classmates. He has, to put it in the teacher's words, come out of his shell. Efren gets along well with others and is enjoyable to have in class. Congratulations, Efren. We know that family is the strongest influence on the growth and development of an individual. I know you have some family members here who are supporting you. If you have a parent, if you're a parent of Asher or of Efren, would you please stand up and be recognized too? Thank you so much for all that you do. We have some special staff that we're going to honor tonight. The first group of staff is our K-1 Intensive Learning Center staff. Chris Smith, Javi Cortez, Jamie Rutledge, Carmina Medina, and Noemi Barajas. Could you come up, please? Chris Smith, wave your hand, Chris, is a teacher in the teacher in our K-1 Intensive Learning Center. And Noemi, wave when I, yeah, Noemi, Javi, Carmina, and Jamie are assistants in the program. I cannot begin to convey how amazing this team is. These superhumans serve our youngest and neediest students with a level of care, compassion, professionalism, and expertise that is unmatched. They do it with patience and with grace, and most of all, with an absolute belief in the ability of their very special students to succeed every day. They work tirelessly every day to establish routines with students, to help them to find success, and to find that success not only in the intensive learning classroom, but with their peers in mainstream classrooms as well. They are modest and unassuming, but they are truly miracle workers. It is a blessing to have each and every one of them in our Heritage ILC team. Here's what their colleagues had to say. Congratulations to the K-1 ILC team. This team is such a hardworking team who always makes sure that their students' needs are met and communicated to others in such a helpful and caring way. You go above and beyond, and we see all the hard work and the dedication you have to your students. All students in your program are part of your classroom family and feel the love, support, and dedication you provide them. I am grateful to work alongside you. I'm so grateful to Javi, Noemi, Carmina, and Jamie. I appreciate how they work together and are always up for a good challenge. Carmina cares deeply about the kids. She's always willing to do whatever needs to be done and is enthusiastic. Javi is calm, collected, focused, never panicked, able to work successfully with very difficult students. Jamie is enthusiastic, community-minded, caring, I've seen many times, seen her running across campus to where she's needed, always positive. Chris has leadership. She advocates for people with special needs. She's never flustered and has a great sense of humor. Congratulations, team. And the community folks we'd like to recognize are members of our Heritage Parent Teacher Organization, Heritage PTO. We have a new PTO. We have an official parent teacher organization. And I'd like to call on any of the following folks who are here tonight: Annika Figueroa, Malika Gillette, Yesenia Sasueta, Michaela Lukes, Chris Smith is already up here, and Luz Torres Cruz. Come on up. Annika, Malika, Yesenia, and Michaela have not only stepped up and gotten involved in forming our new Heritage Parent-Teacher Organization, they've agreed to take up the necessary leadership roles, forming the Heritage PTO Board of Directors. We are excited to see this manifestation of community engagement taking off at Heritage, and we look forward to watching it grow and flourish. Chris Smith and Luz Torres Cruz have been engaged, inspired, and involved staff members of our new PTO. Here's what our staff have had to say about parents, teachers, and assistants involved. Thank you to these parents who were able to take charge of the PTO. Without them, we wouldn't have this organization. Michaela, Annika, Yesenia, and Malika, thank you all for stepping up to get the Heritage PTO off the ground and running. You are all busy, but your willingness to volunteer for the benefit of Heritage is so very appreciated. Chris, thank you for your leadership and for helping to start our very own PTO. We couldn't have done it without you. Luz is a kind and helpful person. I so appreciate all of her help with our part of getting the PTO started. You're amazing. Luz is a very kind companion. You can always count on her. She is very hardworking and puts a lot of effort into everything she does. Congratulations and thanks. Run back. All right, I think we should all come around here so they can take pictures and stuff.
I think everybody squeeze in under the TV, kind of.
Right here, turn around. You can be in the picture.
A little bit closer there, Mr. Letters. All right, here we go. Ready? One. Hold on. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Here's just a little video. Thank you very much. And thank you.
Just like at school, it's always about to. Yes.
Good evening. This is the part where I get to talk about Heritage Elementary School, talk about our school improvement goals and how they relate to the Woodburn School District Strategic Plan, talk a little bit about some of the activities, some of the successes, some of the data, and here for questions. So we have 3 school improvement goals this year. We have lots of things that we're working on, but there are 3 that have been elevated to the level of our school improvement plan. This work was done by all staff, and that it was also validated and worked on with our site council and with our school leadership. Everybody looked at the data. We looked at the options and opportunities. We had time before school started to have staff walk to charts and put sticky dots on where they thought things were important based on the data that we looked at. We spent days plowing through it and deciding what to do. Then we took the same information and activity to site council, did the same work, took the same information and activity to our building leadership team, did the work, and we all came to the agreement that these are the 3 top things we're working on this year. Whoop, improving, I can say it, it's okay. Improving community engagement, improving our reading achievement, and improving our attendance. So the way that these align with the strategic plan, there are 3 strategic goals in the Woodburn strategic plan, and I think that they align with the 2 at the top there. Fostering our culture of engagement and partnerships at the district means family and community engagement at the building level. And having students graduate prepared to pursue college career options and success means, of course, academic achievement. We're focusing on reading and on showing up. So that's attendance. The community engagement goal right now is measured by how many parents come to how many things. So the goal this year is to have at least 80% of all Heritage families attend at least 3 key family community events. So the way that we're doing this is we have a community engagement team that includes folks from the building, it includes a couple parents, it includes our parents involvement specialists from the district. They meet every other week and they look at the data and they come up with options and opportunities to work on tier 1 and tier 2 strategies, which means the stuff we do to work with almost everybody or everybody. One of the things that happened as a result of those conversations was conversations about why don't we have a PTO? And the next thing you know, we have a PTO. So formation of a Heritage Parent-Teacher Organization. We do have improved communication with weekly engagement from administrators and teachers. Again, shout out to Casey Woolley for the district communication plan for helping us to get that off the ground. Teachers also post regularly on a closed system communication with parents, and parents have been actively engaged in 2-way communication there as well. We have parent involvement specialists from the district planning engaging activities for families with this as well. And we have parent involvement specialists who speak Russian and who speak Spanish and help us to facilitate those things in 3 languages. So just one piece of data, because this is a short report. We are paying attention to how many people are coming to how many things, and we're tracking every time we have something, whether it's a literacy night, whether it's a technology night, whether it's whatever the thing is. And of course, fall conference is a very important one for us. We are improving in our attendance at fall conferences in 2021. The first one's post-pandemic in person. We had 85% of our families who participated. That's up to 91 this fall. Hey, we just saw some of these people. This is the board of the newly formed Heritage Parent-Teacher Organization, which is, again, evidence of increased community engagement and involvement. This is a place where parents and staff really can take control of activities that they'd like to engage in and plan and carry out. The first movie night is happening this Friday at Heritage in the gym, so you're all welcome to come. 6 o'clock. Admission's free, but you got to pay for your popcorn or your beverage, and of course that money is going to be raised for the PTO for more activities. This is another example of a community engagement activity that was planned in concert with the parent involvement specialists. We had a technology night. We had the district technology director, that's Michelle Barnes, our library media specialist, teaching parents how they can log in at home for kids to use some of the tools that they use for learning in school. We answered parent questions about internet safety. We had ways to get into Class Dojo, which is our, again, closed, secure 2-way communication system for parents and teachers. So our reading goal was based on our measures of academic progress data. The teachers reviewed it and were pretty clear that when looking for trends, it really almost didn't matter what grade and it almost didn't matter what language. The area that was consistently a challenge for students was the area of reading vocabulary. And so we've decided that we're going to be focusing on improving students' scores in the area of reading vocabulary on the measures of academic progress between fall and spring. So I can't show you the data yet because it's not spring yet, but that's what we're working on. And the places that we're going to focus are particularly those students who are really struggling. So those who are in the bottom quintile, we're looking at making more than 1 year's worth of growth overall to catch up from fall to spring. So some of the things that we're doing that work, we have grade level professional learning teams who focus on literacy instruction every week. And they have cycles of learning where they take a look at how students are performing in reading, and they plan together based on how students are doing, and then they deliver lessons, and then they come back and see how kids did afterwards. So they have 6-week cycles where they plan, they implement, and then they look and see how the kids are doing. We have district-wide professional learning that focuses on our brand new literacy curriculum, which is the benchmark curriculum at the K-5 level. And this is about to happen, building professional learning, focusing on deprivatizing practice. This came out of conversations in the building leadership team about how we can get better at teaching reading. Well, one of the ways we can get better at teaching reading is get into each other's classrooms. I have the honor and privilege of getting out into the building and seeing so many amazing things that teachers are doing, but they don't get to see that as often because they're next door teaching also. And sometimes I'm watching a lesson and thinking, oh, the person next door is doing a really cool thing. I bet you if you could see that, you would do that and it would work and it would be awesome. So teachers talked about ways to get this, to make this happen. We are, our next Monday day for professional learning in the building, we're working with the instructional coaches to make plans for how each grade level is going to do this. And it doesn't involve just the grade level teams. The specialist teachers are going to work with a grade level that they work with too. I mean, our art teacher is an experienced classroom teacher, and she works with every grade level, and she teaches an English enrichment class. It makes sense that she would also want to know, hey, what are the kindergarten teachers doing in teaching reading vocabulary? Maybe I can do that during art class, right? So we're going to be finding ways to get into each other's classrooms. Some grades are going to be doing this virtually by asking to have a lesson videotaped, and then they'll bring the videotape to their colleagues at the end of the day, and they can talk through it, debrief it, highlight things that are working, look at how kids are doing, and learn from each other. Other colleagues are going to give up a prep, so they're going to, while their kids are all at specials, they're going to go into another teacher's room and watch the teacher teach. And still others are doing a combination of the two. So we're gonna try out all those things between mid-February and March, and then come back together and see what we can learn about a system that'll work for us that we can kind of take to scale for everybody to do. But everybody's going to be engaged in the work this first time. So these are some of the activities that we've been doing to support improving literacy among students. This is Veronica Montes. She's one of the folks who works in the district with parents on in the Spanish strand, and she's working with kindergarten parents on things that they can do at home to foster early literacy and vocabulary development with kindergarten students. We're going to have another session. That's okay. We're going to have another session in a little bit. This is just an example from a teacher's classroom to show how teachers are integrating across the curriculum. So reading and writing don't just happen during language arts time, and developing vocabulary doesn't just happen during the reading lesson. So this is this is going to be a 4th grade teacher, and this informative essay is actually being done during science. So it's just a reminder that teachers learn how to do these things, but it's applicable all day, not just during reading time. The third goal we have is attendance. This is one that a few years ago, the state identified for us as something we really needed to work on. So that was not a hard one for us to agree with. Attendance has been improving, but we want to continue that improvement. The team wants to improve overall average daily attendance by 1.5% between last year and this year. And the way that they did that, digging into the data, we have a lot of students who are chronically absent. Chronically absent is defined by missing at least 1 day out of 10. And so what we're looking at is students who were chronically absent last year, so they're now 1st through 5th graders, who were chronically absent in K through 4th grade. Their individual attendance will improve by at least 3% over last year's. And that amounts to, well, I don't know, because we just had some ice days, but before the ice days, that would have been 5 days. 5 more days of school this year than last year would get you over that hump. And then we're also looking at focusing on kindergarten because when they analyzed the grade level data, kindergarten students had some of the worst attendance by grade level. 5th grade had the best. Yeah, sure.
I got a quick question just for clarification on the
Sure.
chronically absent students.
Yeah.
You said 1 out of every 10 days.
Mhm.
So that's set, but how is that consecutively? Like how many times do they have to do that?
That's chronically absent. So the state at the end of the year will tell us this student was a chronically absent student. They'll look at the course of the whole year. But we have a flag set up in our system so that if a student right now is chronically absent, like if you stay on this path, you will be the state will consider you chronically absent. So we kind of have two things going on, right? So so you may have somebody who say had 75% attendance in the first quarter that's now 95%, right? So maybe that student was at the beginning of the year looking like they were going to be a chronically absent student, but by the end, they're not. So we have in this goal, we're looking at the kids we identified last year,
Okay.
right? So the ones who we know already were chronically absent last year, we want to help them improve. It's very much like what we do with reading and math scores, like growing from one year to the next. How'd you do last year compared to this year? This is about student growth, and this is growth in how many days you're here.
So what if the parents excuse the absence? Is that still considered
So
the chronic?
by the state, yes, and the reason is pretty straightforward. If you're not here, we can't do the reading stuff, right? We can't do the math stuff. And 1 day out of 10 is a lot. That would add up to almost 2/3 of a school year by the end of 5th grade. So, so it doesn't mean people can't be absent, but over the course of a year, we'd like it to stay under 10%. That would be considered a regular attender.
So what would you suggest or examples of how to correct this chronic absence?
Hey,
child?
that is a very good question. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so some of the things that we're doing, we start by focusing on a culture of supporting better attendance for everybody, because part of what we wanted to do is just highlight attendance, talk about it more, and make it more of a big deal, just generally speaking. So that for some students who might be kind of on the bubble, who might not be paying too much attention and are they're just a little bit over, these kinds of things might help them. So for example, we are now, in addition to doing certificates, Timberwolf certificates for, being safe, respectful, and responsible, we also have regular recognition for students who have perfect attendance for a particular period of time, right? Perfect attendance for 2 weeks, perfect attendance for a month. Teachers give them certificates, and then they get drawn for certificates from counselors. We have weekly tracking of classroom attendance, so there's a little dial outside of every classroom so teachers can mark how much did the class attend this week, so that they're having a sense, just knowing the information sometimes helps. And then this is more to your question about how do you help the chronically absent students. Sometimes it's a very individual answer because different kids are absent for different reasons. And so depending on the reason for the absence, you want to look at what are the things that would matter to the child. Is there something they'd like to work for? Is there something that would help them want to come more? Is there something that we can put out for them? And then we have individual incentives for students in those cases too. And then of course we also have our Tier 3 systems, which is our homeschool contact, who regularly works with families to try to help discern if there's a transportation issue, if there is a life issue, that we can help connect parents and families with services, because a lot of times attendance isn't in an elementary school isn't simply a child issue, it's a family issue. And so if we're made aware that there's an issue, that kids are having a hard time getting to the bus and parents have to work and they're not there, we work with them to see what we can do to help kids to be able to get to school. If parents are needing help with services, maybe their housing is a challenge at the moment, then our homeschool contact is wonderful at helping to find resources so that families can have the connections, resources, and stability to be able to support having kids come to school. So it kind of depends on why they're not there. So some of it's about helping the family, some of it's about giving an incentive to the child.
So what percentage are still chronic or?
I don't have those data in front of me, but I have some data coming up. I'll see if they're in there. I just want to give a couple examples of these things that we're doing. So this is one individual classroom teacher who just made a pact with her students, said, what do you guys want to work for? And this was a 5th grade class. They said, we want a donut party. And she said, okay. So as soon as you guys have 10 days with 100% of the class here, we're going to have a donut party. So that's what they did. I think they're on their 4th run of those, 10-day things. We also have these, this is the dials I was talking about, where teachers just help students to be aware of, this is what our attendance was in class for the week. This is particularly helpful in upper grades when kids care more about their peers. In kindergarten, they barely know that they have other kids in class. They know about the teacher and that's about it. But in 4th and 5th grade, they really start to care a lot about what their peers are doing. And so this really helps them to understand, like, oh, what I'm doing impacts everybody else too. So. We also have done things like when a class all shows up 100% attendance for the first time, we make a big deal out of it. We come take a picture, we celebrate it, we'll announce it, we'll do stuff. So this is just a, hey, we're all here today. Let's celebrate that. So here's a little bit of the attendance data. We have some kinder attendance data by month. So this is 2 different groups of kids. The blue is last year's kindergarten students and the red is this year's kindergarten students. So our kinder teachers have really been focusing on making sure that parents understand kindergarten attendance is super important, that kindergarten is also school, and that we also focus on reading and writing and math and all those things. We also focus on social and emotional well-being. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to miss if you're not here. We also had Kinder Jumpstart this summer, which helped a lot of kindergarten students to make connections with school and families to make connections with school. So the next dive into this data, I don't have the answer for you yet, would be to look at the kids who are doing well and to see how many of them went to Kinder Jumpstart over the summer. So this is to your point about the chronically absent students. So this is all of our chronically absent students from last year and how they're doing this year. So about 3/4 of them have gotten better than last year's attendance, which is awesome. We would like 100% of them to be better, but we are still at 3/4 of them having better attendance this year than they did last year. And I should have broken this to 3% because it would have been a little bit higher, because 3% is our goal. But I just wanted to point out that almost 2/3 of those students who were chronically absent last year have already improved at least 5%, which is almost, it's like 8 or 9 days more. It would be over the course of a year. This is more like if they've gotten 5 more days up to this point. So we're really proud of the growth that we're seeing and the work that the attendance team is doing. They meet every other week and look at the data and make these plans as well.
So you mentioned that kindergarten is the grade level that shows the most.
They're the ones who are most absent historically. If we look at our data last year and prior years, I mean, pandemic, I don't know what to tell you about that, but yes, kindergarten tends to have the lowest percentage of attendance on average.
And what does tardy look like for kinder?
What does tardy look like? I'm sorry, I don't have those data, but I will get them and I will give them to Juan and he can get them to you.
I mean, the reason why I ask, if we are looking at this from a developmental lens, kindergartners need at least 2 hours of sleep. So if school is starting at 7:50 and kids aren't going to bed at 7, and my guess is that many of our kids are not, that means that they would be getting up at 7 to be at school by start time is 7:50. If they are riding the bus, I'm assuming that pickup time is earlier than that.
Yes, it is.
And so it would make sense that as they grow older and go into a higher grade level, they need less sleep and are more likely to be in school and arrive to school on time. And I'm just wondering, is that something that the school considers?
In terms of when we start school, there's not really a way that we could start kindergarten any later. And I think if you asked a kindergarten teacher, I think they'd tell you that the kids tend to be fresher. The little ones tend to be fresher in the morning than in the afternoon. They're kind of wilting more, that they're tireder at the end of the day than at the beginning. I agree with you. You're absolutely right about developmentally how much sleep little ones need. And part of it is, I think, a community education piece about when kids should go to bed. And maybe that parents don't recognize sometimes when kids are finding access to screens and keeping themselves up late, well past the time their parents thought they were asleep. So, yes, I agree with you very much about the sleep. I think we could also talk about it in a more holistic, what are we doing to make sure kids are getting enough rest?
And are those
Outside.
conversations happening? in the
They haven't happened at the targeted level that we've had some of the other ones, but they certainly can be a part of some of the early work that we do with parents when we have kindergarten back to school night, when we have kindergarten jumpstart, and when we have those early literacy nights. So I appreciate that. And just bringing it home, the reason we do all this is our promise is to engage, inspire, and to prepare each student to learn, lead, and contribute towards an equitable community, both local and global. Oh, and I have some cards for you guys that kids made. I don't have them in any particular order, so do you want me to just give them to you, and then you can give them to folks? Yeah, they wanted to thank you all for your service, so thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's always great to find out what's happening in our schools. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is, it's board appreciation.
Some of the fantastic, amazing people, students, the staffs, some of those PTO members who are contributing to making Woodburn a special place. Well, in January, we have an opportunity to recognize our board and their contributions to making Woodburn a special place. And you may have noticed the appreciation signs in the background, some of the items on your desks tonight. And usually the board is having a proclamation recognizing different groups of staff, but tonight we have a proclamation that we'd like to read into the record, recognizing our board and the contributions that you're all making to make Woodburn a wonderful place. So whereas school boards create a vision for what students should know and be able to do, whereas school boards establish clear standards for student performance, whereas school boards ensure that student assessments are tied to established standards, whereas school boards are accountable to the community for operating schools that support student achievement, whereas school boards align school district resources to ensure that students meet standards, whereas school boards create a climate that supports the philosophy for all students can learn at high levels, whereas school boards build collaborative relationships based on trust, teamwork, and shared accountability, and whereas school boards are committed to continuous education and training on issues related to student achievement. Now, therefore, I hereby declare my appreciation to the members of the Woodburn School Board and proclaim the month of January to be the School Board Recognition Month. And I urge all citizens to join me in recognizing the dedication and the hard work of our local school board members for preparing today's students for tomorrow's future. And we have some certificates for you all as well. So when you hear your name called, please come forward. Board Chair Nomi Legaspi. Board Vice Chair Santiago Puente. Director Rosie Burkhoff. Director Anthony Medina. And Director Laura Isiordia is not here tonight, but we want to recognize her as well.
And I want to say thank you to the schools who created these awesome posters for us. We'll definitely look forward to reading more about them at the end of our meeting. So thank you.
And the pieces in your bags were some of the created by students as well. Well, high school students, yeah.
so it looks like, next is public comment. Jenny, do we have public comment? Nope, okay. Moving on to reports, we have board reports, and this is where board members get to share, their involvement and participation in moving forward and participating in the schools. I can start. I think one of the couple things that I did was it's basketball season, so attended some of the girls' basketball games and boys, as well as the chili cook-off that was on Saturday, and the school district was there, and that was fun to attend and connect with community.
Community engagement for me was during the apocalypse, I mean the ice storm or whatever. Just being outside and engaging with the community, the neighbor kids and whatnot, just having fun, just sledding and, just laughing and watching each other fall. And other than that, also, I didn't get to go to the entire event, but I got to get some of the last of the chili cook-off, which Jenny, I've hired her for my Super Bowl party because her chili was amazing. But yeah, so that was really cool to see the turnout there. Yeah.
I don't have anything report other than in December, I attended the school visit at the high school with Juan and Jenny and Naomi. That's about it.
I attended one of our OSBA Association board meetings, and tomorrow night, Washington Elementary School is having a reading night, and I'll be there.
And next, we have Chemeketa Community College. We have President Jessica Howard and Director Diane Watson, who will be presenting today.
Mayor Legospi, Vice Chair Puente, Superintendent Larios, and members of the board. I'm very pleased to be here tonight. My name is Jessica Howard. I'm the president of Chemeketa Community College, and I'm joined by Diane Watson, who is a board member for Chemeketa on our Board of Education, and her district includes Woodburn. And so she and I are here tonight to give you a little report on the students that we share.
I'm very happy to be here tonight. I've been on the board and represented Woodburn for 12 years, and that's because I just love what we do at Chemeketa, and I love Woodburn and this whole area here. Tonight, we're going to kind of talk about our relationship and what happens with our students and how we mutually help them on their career paths. And you've received a little handout here. It gives you some data there. And one of the things in there, it says that 26% of the Woodburn High School graduates from 21 to 22 enrolled at Chemeketa. So about a quarter of your students ended up at Chemeketa. And of the, we have what we call a Chemeketa Scholars Program, where if a student has a 3.5 GPA and they pass our placement test at college level, and they'd be ready to enter by the next fall, they receive a full tuition scholarship, which is really, really nice. And for the Woodburn High School, let's see, it has accumulated a total savings of $667,946 because 112 Woodburn graduates achieved this between 2013 to 2022. So that's pretty significant savings there. And also students at Chemeketa received the Oregon Promise, and 327 Woodburn High School graduates received this. And the students who came to Chemeketa, they've been awarded, this would be a $637 savings, so considerable savings. And then in the past 5 years, 393 Woodburn High School alumni completed a Chemeketa certificate or degree or transferred to Chemeketa, from Chemeketa to a four-year institution. But what I'd like to do is talk to you about some of the new things that are happening at Chemeketa that I'm really, really excited. Well, sometimes if you get an electronics degree, it's a 2-year technical degree, or you get a degree in auto mechanics, or you get a degree in auto body or secretarial science, this is kind of an in, 2 years, you're going to go back and you're going to transfer to a four-year school. You don't have the kind of courses that are necessary because it's with degree specific. We now have an applied baccalaureate degree, which you have a little brochure on, in leadership and management. We were the first school in Oregon to have a baccalaureate degree, and the legislature passed, I think it was 2 years ago, that we could start giving that. And we started out with a cohort of 25. We thought we were going to start with 25. Actually, we have two cohorts that we started with. And what happens is these students go through as a cohort for 2 years, and I think it's one term, and they get their bachelor's degree. They only need to be on campus one night a week, Tuesday night, and then the rest of it is online, or it's work that they do at their place of business. They need to enter if they need an applied science degree or even the general studies degree if they have a job. So it's a real opportunity at that end to go and complete that bachelor's degree, because sometimes if you're an electrician and you're working for a company and you want to move up into management, there's not a path to get that bachelor's degree. And this can be taken onto any of our applied science degrees. Okay, and then on top of that, we've been lobbying for a long time, and so have community college, to get the Bachelor of Science in Nursing, because we have a registered nursing degree. In fact, we have the number one pass rate in Oregon for registered nursing, passing the National Nursing League team test. Anyway, this is including four-year colleges. We have an excellent nursing program, but a lot of right now hospitals are wanting bachelor's level nurses. So we got the permission to do this, and we're developing that program. And then I have one more thing to brag about. I hope that we get our bond passed, because I've advocated for this for the last, I don't know how many years, that we need a science lab at our Woodburn Center. They're expensive. They're like $500,000 to do a state-of-the-art science lab, but that's in that bond. And that will do for the Woodburn Center is we can offer a complete Associates of Arts degree there without having anybody come to campus. They can do it right here in this community. But it also means that people want to go into nursing can get their science classes right here. So I'm excited about that. I'm hoping we get that on the board in the next year or sooner, and can get started on that, because that's going to open up something right here. And I'm real excited about that. But at the other end, we are developing short-term credential courses. If you can see here, we have 48 different short-term credentials. Somebody can take a term, 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, and they can come out with a credential that will lead to a job. And you can look here, for example, the accounting. You can sit for the bookkeeper professional exam with that. It's 3 terms. Tax preparation, 1 term. Auto body repair. You can take 1 year, you can get a certificate and get a job. But then you can come back and work on getting your associate's degree. And then if you want to, you can get your applied baccalaureate degree. So, I mean, we're creating pathways all over the place. And some are even non-credit you can get. We have a truck driving school, 4 weeks. When you finish the truck driving school, I've heard from one person, he started at $70,000 and with a $5,000 sign-on bonus. So we are trying to open up the world for jobs for everybody. And we're working at one end and then the other end to go in that. Even the applied baccalaureate degree, that's really cool, because we're working with Western Oregon. If you get the applied baccalaureate degree, then after that, Western will take the last quarter of your applied baccalaureate degree and apply it to a master's degree. So we are working with lots of partnerships here too. The other thing, and kind of in closing this, I have to show you something I'm really proud, because Chemeketa has landed a bunch of grants simply because we do quality education. We apply for them and they give us the money and we spend it wisely. And one of them that we have is for childcare. We got over $2 million there. We have a partnership with Portland State that is working with incarcerated individuals to help them get a bachelor's degree. And that's over a $2 million grant that was given to us. And the Future Ready Oregon grant that we got that is helping out underserved populations. We got 2.8 million, the highest amount in the state. But the latest one that just came down, because Chemeketa is always looking at how they can help the whole community. We got a grant. It's for it's through the U.S. Education Department awarding $44.5 million in grants to 22 higher education institutions across the entire country. And only 8 community colleges out of that 22 received the grant. Well, Chemeketa received this grant, and we got $2.2 million. And it's to expand career and technical education, dual credit courses. It's to help high schools out in our community. So anyway, I can turn it over to Jessica now. You can add something, but I'm really pumped up about what Chemeketa is doing, and they're just on fire. So we hope that we can have some dialogue. If there's something we can do better here in Woodburn, I'd like to hear it.
That was one of my questions, was the CTE part of it. How does that look, getting it implemented with the high schools? How does your guys' plan look in regards to that?
So this grant that we recently received from the U.S. Department of Ed, that Board Member Watson is talking about, it's designed for students in rural districts, and it's designed to help students who need connections to career and technical education and don't have them, right? Which is often the case in smaller districts and more rural districts. And so this is work we had a FIPSI grant, and we have already been doing this work. So this is a continuation of that good work, which essentially is us in the high schools working with counselors to help connect with students all around in terms of all of the dual credit offerings. Because you can do dual credit in career and technical education, you can do dual credit in, math and writing and social science and humanities and all kind of what I would call your normal gateway type college level courses. And then there are, other options as well. It's a connecting grant. It's about connecting the universe of options that we have to the individual high schools. And so it looks different for every high school, looks different for every student. It's funding around that presence in the high schools. So instead of saying, you need to come to us, we come to you, and then the work starts there. So that is and we were the only institution in Oregon to receive the grant. It's very exciting stuff.
That is. And how do you does this define rural? Because obviously rural is defined differently in school district and whatnot, but
Well, it's interesting because we're not even classified as a rural serving institution because we are located in Salem, but because our district is predominantly rural, right? It's a 2,600 square mile district. Really, it's the whole district. I don't think, my guess is that this grant would not be something we would be utilizing for Salem specifically. But of course, there are some really robust career and technical education connections there already. So this is really about the work we're doing in the high schools. And while I don't know, since this grant, we just received the grant and it went into effect as of January 1st, might be a topic of conversation for us because we have so many opportunities with Woodburn School District in particular because we are not that far away in terms of Brooks specifically. But I think there's a lot more we can do. It's super exciting. Any other questions? Yes.
Rural would be considered more like the outer bound districts like Jervis and Mount Angel and St. Paul, not as much as Woodburn because it's more a bigger city.
It's true. And yet, if you look at, actually, there are reports that come out that tell you by school district how much career and technical education is available to the students of the districts. And I think that there's tremendous room to expand upon that.
So if I'm hearing you right, would this be an opportunity to maybe perhaps bring a program that's offered at Chemeketa to our campus?
I don't think that's how this grant works. It's really about the whole plethora of dual credit, and that can take a number of forms. It can be here, it can be here, somewhere else, it can be close. We have a center, we have, it's really, because, and that's part of the challenge, because it doesn't take one form. We've got early high school options, we have all kinds of things. So it's about that personal connection with the students in the high schools throughout the district, but particularly the ones where we don't have the connections. And so I think that absolutely involves, us, because I think we can do more.
Yeah, earlier this year, we had an opportunity to connect and engage down at Chemeketa in Salem and with our high school principals there as well. And, starting to think about how do we open the doors and access the Brooks campus. And now we have some students who are participating in the ENT program there.
That's what I've heard. And again, to connect that opportunity to what Diane was saying earlier, what has absolutely changed, and this is a huge sea change, and I don't think people realize it yet, but it has been forever and ever, as long as I've been in education, that you either choose a college-going track, right? So you're going to a university, or you maybe are going to a university through a community college, right? So you're going to get an English degree or a history degree or a biology degree, right? Or you're doing career and technical education, which is applied work with your hands. There is a stigma in favor of the university track at the expense of the physical hands-on track. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. And part of the stigma has to do with the fact that you do 2 years, and that's considered the terminal point because you're ready to enter the workforce. With our applied baccalaureate degree, which is a bachelor's degree, it's a fancy word for a bachelor's degree. Like most of the bachelor's degrees that OIT offers, those are all applied baccalaureate degrees. So this is a bachelor's degree that has an applied component that goes right on top of the 2-year career and technical education program. So it's no longer you turn left and you get one option, and you turn sharp right and you get a totally different life and a different option. All those options lead you to a bachelor's degree, and because we have this incredible articulation with Western University, again, this is a regional solution, right? And an ecosystem that's really working well. You can go to Western and get your master's in organizational leadership, and you can get a doctorate after that if you intend. This is a path. This is a path to higher education. It's extremely, it just changes the whole paradigm. And so when we talk about in high school, the career and technical education offerings, we're talking about the entry, to a whole nother entry into a college credential and a credential after that and a credential after that. It is a huge access sort of opportunity.
And with all these short-term trainings, sometimes you can't go through a 2-year degree, or you have a family, or you've lost your job and you need to get retrained. You have some short-term options there, which are exciting.
And then you can add on to it. And the only, I know you're thinking, how long will these people be here? The last thing I will say is that applied bachelor's degree is designed for the working person. So that person, if they stop working, they're no longer eligible to be in our program, because the program relates management and leadership to the job the person is in while they're in the program. So it's affordable, it's incredibly efficient, and it gets you to a bachelor's degree, whether you have an automotive degree or a paramedic degree or a criminal justice degree or a fire science degree or a digital design degree, or any of the many, many, many career and technical degrees that we offer, but also that are offered a lot of other places. So this is for the working adult. And you know what? And one of the brochures that you have is actually for the employer, because we're seeing a lot of employers who want to hang on to the workers they've got in this very tight labor market, right? They don't want to lose the employees they've got who are really working out well for them. What they're doing is they're funding their employees to do the degree program because they're working the whole time. And then that's an investment in the worker that will likely mean that the worker stays and succeeds them in the management position.
I ran into a person who had an insurance business, and he really wanted to keep his administrative assistant. And he saw this program, he says, that's what I can do, because I want her to grow. And he encouraged her to go into that program.
How do you reach businesses who have, like you say, local businesses that have that particular?
We come to places like this, we hand out that brochure, we're hoping word of mouth. I will tell you, we have an advisory committee that has some industry from Woodburn and across our district. We were hoping, as Diane said, we were hoping for 15 students. We got 38. And some of them work at Chemeketa. They're our own employees who said, you know what, this is a way I can get that bachelor's degree I've always dreamed of having. So it's something we're counting on people to start spreading the word around. There's no other degree like
No.
this that I'm aware of. So please help us spread the word, because you're not going to get a more affordable, more worker-friendly bachelor's degree. And it's pretty amazing stuff.
Now, is there any, obviously it's very exciting, it's awesome, but just like everything, is there any downsides to it that you know of at this point?
Nope.
All right.
I mean, because it is of course going to be less expensive. And because, we've jumped through all the many hoops, you're financial aid eligible as well. So all the federal grants and loans that one might be interested in getting, or state, you're eligible for those as well.
And there's a lot of employers who provide money for education. You want to get advanced, I think even Target, some of the stores like that have, I think I looked up, they had $5,000 or $6,000 a year that they could give to an employee who was a permanent employee there to go to school. So there's a way.
Well, and unlike most educational journeys, which I'm a big fan of, I don't think anyone can go wrong with education. But this one, you don't have to stop working while you're embarking upon it. You don't have to stop putting food on the table. You don't have to stop being a parent. You don't have to stop the life that you are living in order to then invest in yourself. This is something you can do at the same time.
And you don't have to be gone every night, one night a week.
It's mostly remote.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And what
sounds
is,
too good to be true, but it is not.
what is the cost per credit?
It is about,
160, wasn't it?
no.
No,
It's
It's-
like 195,
it's
perhaps.
less than going to one of the state universities.
it's-
by far, but
yeah.
It's more expensive than just our regular credit.
Yeah, because it's the junior and senior levels, right? But it is I think it's about $192 a credit hour, something like that. And our understanding is that the lowest priced option at our closest regional, which is Western, is about 220, 240, something like that. So we're committed to keeping it lower than the university cost. And there are no other fees, sports fees.
Thank you.
I'll just add that I'm a huge proponent that high school diploma is no longer a terminal degree, and anything that we can do to ensure that folks continue to along that pathway to some type of post-secondary degree or credential, CTE, professional apprenticeship, associate's degree on. However, we can be a partner as the Woodburn School District. Super excited for those opportunities. And then even looking at the data here, it speaks to what you mentioned earlier. I mean, the biggest population that students you have are over the age of 26. And I think that's very similar to the national average.
Yep.
And it's exciting. And you mentioned, a potential opportunity here in Woodburn. We need it, right? We have students who particularly stay around with their families, trying to figure out what to do after high school. And so, the more opportunities and resources funneled into the Chemeketa Center, the happier.
And that is, I think, the big news for this board in particular, is that we are investing in the Woodburn Center. And that means more things locally, and location matters, particularly when you can't necessarily depend upon transportation. So that science lab was the last piece.
Yeah, and you have a complete associate's degree
At that point.
at that place. You don't have to come into the main
To
campus.
Salem, you don't have to-
You've got this for Woodburn.
And if that bond passes, when will that start?
That's the November election.
Okay.
And so you'll be hearing a lot about this.
Yes.
But my guess is, my guess is that this community will be really excited.
Especially getting into the health occupations and having the science classes that you need for that area because they pay so well. Nurses starting at about $80,000. That's not bachelor's level, that's RNs. And then if you're a traveling nurse, Jessica, yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really, really
We're happy
appreciate
to be here.
Thank you.
being here.
Been very gracious. Thank you. Thanks.
And moving on to our final report is from Director Sarah Bishop.
Shrek from Timbuktu in the back. Good evening, everyone. You have before you your typical monthly report from me. I asked you to do a little something this month, and that was notice the local revenue and its jump from the prior month. So the last time I reported to you, we had received 4% of our local revenue. In this report, we've received 70%. So there's a huge jump at this time of year, and that's very typical. Excuse me. We received one of our property tax payments from the county a little late. We received it right at the beginning of January. But if we include that payment, we received 90% of our local revenue for the year. So it's just a little interesting how the revenue sources come into the district and how we have to be planful and how we budget. Expense-wise, we're right where we typically are. We're 1% ahead of our spending over last year in instruction and 2% ahead of where we are in support services. So nothing crazy jumping out at us there. I did bring a little different report this month for the enrollment report. We've talked quite a bit about ADM, which is average daily membership. Typically, I bring a warm body count, which is physical students present. ADM is the average daily membership again. So we're looking at not only total students present, but the days that they're attending. And that influences our state school fund. And so we just reported on our second period ADM to ODE. And so that's what's reported here. So you'll see that it says period 2, comparing this year to last year. Overall, we're down 46 students, but we are up at the elementary level. So you'll see that I grade out the online categories because we don't report that separately for ADM. It's all included in the totals.
Can we go to the local revenue
Yes.
question? So it got brought up, I don't think it was last board meeting, but maybe a couple meetings ago.
Mhm.
Could have been during the Measure 5 conversation that we had during the budget period. But I remember bringing up Amazon. The
Mhm.
Amazon warehouse and the potential property tax, property revenue that would come from Amazon. And I remember being like, I don't know if it was a Measure 5 conversation or something else, but that Amazon was capped at a certain amount in terms of what
So the
district revenue will be.
So I think you're thinking about construction excise tax, maybe?
Maybe.
So construction excise tax, we're allowed to assess a fee on all new construction and improvement construction that happens within our taxing district. And there is caps on what we're allowed to do. So for example, the Amazon building, let's just say it was $30 million and we're allowed to assess a 3% tax on that. It's capped at a certain amount. So, and that cap is about 31,000 each year. So even though that construction was huge, There's a limit on what we can assess for that tax.
So it's a tax on their expenditure?
No, on the,
The
yeah, on the
value.
total expense of the building cost.
Okay, the expense of the building, not the appraised value of the building?
Correct. So property taxes will be based upon the assessed value of that property. And so the county will probably do a new assessment now that the building is theoretically complete.
Mhm.
And then that could impact our taxes, yes.
Okay. So during this weekend, we had a conversation about it, and there's some folks in Woodburn City Hall, and their comment was that they were really hoping that the state did the assessment and not the county. Does that make sense to you?
No, I
No?
can't say I
Okay.
would know the reason why.
That it'd be higher.
And it's usually each county that is responsible for assessing the property values within their jurisdiction, so.
Okay.
I don't know. And regardless, even when our property tax value does go up within our district, that's absolutely fantastic. However, they take the amount we receive in property taxes and subtract it from our state school fund amount. So as our property values increase, that means we get a decrease in state school funding. So the impact is really a wash to us because one funding source increases and the other one decreases conversely. No. It's a one-time thing, yep, on new construction and then construction improvement. So say you wanted to add 1,000 square feet onto your personal residence, you would have to pay construction excise tax. It goes to the city and they turn it over to us on that improvement at your home as well. But property taxes will go to the county, and again, we will get our portion of the property taxes. So, but if our property taxes increase astronomically, our state school fund goes down in the exact same amount.
So for like all projected upcoming projects such as Chipotle as one, and that small little Taco Bell, that's all new construction, which
is passed through in only construction excise tax. And that is a capital projects fund. It's very specific as to what we can spend that on. It can only relate to construction projects to address new students. So we couldn't say, put a new roof on the high school. It's not eligible for that. It has to be solely to serve the expansion needs of new students coming to the district. And that's the state law.
And that's, for instance, until all those new subdivisions are actually completed and the homes are up and occupied.
And again, the only way we would get additional funding because of how property taxes and state school fund relate so closely together is an increase in enrollment. Or the state legislature giving us a bigger state school fund pot.
So the construction excise tax is just 1 year, so Amazon.
1 year, yep.
So do we get that, the 31,000 from Amazon?
We did,
already?
yeah.
Okay.
And you said enrollment increase, so thinking of down the road with this bond going through,
Mhm. Theoretically, yes, if new students come into the district and our enrollment increases, that's fantastic. We can make on-the-fly adjustments to our enrollment projections with ODE. But again, that's the only way our state school fund increases.
So our current, so I know that I heard you correctly. What we told ODE our projections would be, we are coming in on target with those projections, correct?
Yes, we're very, very close.
Okay. That's what I'm- Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Shout out to Sarah and Juan last night. I heard you all were at the Washington parent
Oh, yeah, the
Teacher
site council
site
meeting.
council, and they were at the site council meeting explaining budget to site council folks. So
Yeah, it was a great group. It was a great meeting, very interactive and had a lot of great questions, so.
awesome.
Yep.
Really important work. Thank you for doing that.
their third or fourth one we've been to so far. So, yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda number 5, we have confirmation items. We have 1, meeting minutes, 2, personnel, acceptance of gift donations, surplus property disposal report. Look at that. Do we have any questions?
Move to approve the confirmation items.
Thank you. Is there a second? All in favor of adopting the confirmation items as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries. 4-0 vote. Board action items, old business. We have policy update, the second reading.
So in your board packet tonight, you see two policies, local wellness program and family medical leave. And at the board work session earlier in January, we had a great conversation, had an opportunity to engage and answered a lot of questions and take into account your board feedback and guidance on the language in the policy. So it's in the policies tonight is reflective of that conversation. And so bringing forward those, taking into account all that we discussed at the January work session and just bringing them as to be with the recommendation of adopting them as presented.
And the change for the local wellness program is just over in the bracket, right?
Yes.
Go to the family medical leave question. I know that. So can you talk to me about, so I see 12 months, there's language in here for 12 months. Can you talk to me about that?
The language in there.
Must have been employed by, employed by the district. I went to the page and then I automatically saw 12 months. So during the last board meeting, after the meeting, I got an email from a staff member who kind of gave their background on how there might have been a FMLA opportunity at the district, might have been, might have not been, I don't know, that they were able to extend leave up to 12 months. Sure, a significant part of it might have been unpaid leave, but it's still protected leave. Is the current language supportive of that? And I know we emailed about it. You also said that there's potential for it in the CBA. What's a better mechanism for it to exist if we were to move in that direction? And if current language would even allow for it?
Well, there is a process for staff to request unpaid leave if it extends beyond what's currently available to them for protected leave. And so that does exist for a staff member to be able to request additional leave through the unpaid leave process.
It's a protected leave.
The unpaid leave. So like if they want to go beyond, if they need are requesting time off, for whatever reason that might be, there might be different reasons. It might be family, it might be personal, it might be other things that they're wanting to explore. And so they can request like that additional leave through the unpaid leave process.
Okay. But would that leave be protected? Do you know?
It would be accessed. It could be like in terms of like the guarantee. I think you're
Like a
thinking of
guaranteed employment.
guaranteeing their
That's
employment when they return. That's a possibility. Yeah. That's if they request time away through unpaid leave, it's still they're guaranteed a spot when they return.
Okay.
So we would hold the position for them if they're granted that.
Okay, so they might not come back to their building where they were at. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's something we always adjust and look at, like where are the needs at, and so there's always something that's the possibility for everybody, where their placement or assignments are.
Okay.
So yeah, it's following what the needs of the student are. We're following the numbers.
Okay, so there would be opportunity that language does not exist in board policy, language does not exist in the CBA.
There is some in the CBA
There
already.
is some in the CBA.
Yeah,
Okay, that would allow for the 12-month leave,
for the request of unpaid leave.
the unpaid leave, okay. And so the response we got back from staff was, I think it was Canby School District was able to offer this. I don't know if we used to, I feel like I've heard we did, I heard we did it.
We explored that whatever existed in our policy. It was a practice that we've had, and the practice still exists. It's still a process that people could go through that request. So we clarified that. I think we're on the same page around how an employee would go about requesting that leave.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that hopefully it gets addressed. At the same time, it shouldn't be like, I don't want to also create like this awkward, let the board know that way we can get this done, but it doesn't exist in policy, doesn't exist in the CBA. Like if another staff member were to want to go through the same process for whatever reason, it seems like it should be something that's more streamlined or something that's better available, better known about. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Better known in what way would help me understand?
That the opportunity like that exists, right? Like, so email that I got was at Canby School District. They were like, yeah, here you go. Here's form you fill out to take leave. Whereas here, if someone were to ask, there's no like set process, right? There's nothing for them to be like, let me fill out the form to take FMLA leave. Here, I know it's protected. There's language that protects my position, either in board policy or in the CBA. That doesn't exist right now. Whereas in other districts, it might be more protected for them.
Yeah, I think I'll check our website, but then there's a lot of information on the website for how it's available to employees. And if it's not, we'll make sure that we put it on the website, but I believe it's there. Yeah, specific to FMLA.
Thank you. I move to approve the policy updates for EFA, the local wellness program, and for GCBDA, GBDBDA, family medical leave.
Thank you. I second it. All in favor of policy update for EFA, local wellness program, and GCBDA, family medical leave? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The motion carried. It's applicable. New business. Next, I'd like to invite Director Chapman to present the Early Literacy Success Plan.
And as Director Chapman, Assistant Director Pete, and Principal Cheryl and Rawson are coming up to the table. They're tonight going to present the Early Literacy Grant, which is a part of the Early Literacy Initiative that we heard about earlier in the year. It was part of a presentation by Director Chapman. And now it's one of those initiatives that is set as a priority by Governor Kotek, the legislation, and how we are going to utilize those funds here in Woodburn.
Good evening, Chair Legaspi, Superintendent Larios, and members of the board. So I will be sharing with you some information about the early literacy grant and how we are going to be using those funds. So like Superintendent Larios just said, a couple of months ago, you approved for us to go ahead and apply for this grant. And so I'll share a little bit more information about the grant itself, and then Principal Rossman's going to talk about how the principals were involved in the decision-making process, and then Assistant Director Pete is going to share a little bit of information about what we're currently doing to meet some of the requirements of the grant. So the governor has identified an early literacy success initiative that she has rolled out to the state, and there are 4 different components to it. And the part that we'll be talking about tonight is the Early Literacy Success School District Grants. And so this slide just has some information about the Early Literacy Success Initiative that the governor is focused on, and so you can read a little bit about the initiative itself, but we'll be focused on the one component of it tonight. So to support this work, the governor asked ODE, the Department of Education, to present or to create the early literacy framework. So the state has had a literacy framework for many years. And so they took this as an opportunity to update that framework. And so they recently rolled this out. And this framework is intended to guide districts in their work around early literacy. It's really focused on birth to 3rd grade. And it's also the foundation for the grant that supports the implementation of the framework. And so there are 8 different components to the framework, 8 different pillars, and then the guiding principles are listed there as well. And so we dug into this with the principals and with some of our work groups that we have in the district to help us just kind of start to understand the work that we need to do in the district and how we might best leverage these funds. So if you recall, in one of my previous presentations, we talked about some of the district goals. And so one of our longitudinal growth goals is around literacy. And so we have our strategic plan outcome here, which is that each student will demonstrate proficiency in all state academic areas. And so a part of our integrated plan, one of the goals that we're focused on is that 3rd grade reading, which our goal for this year is that at least 15% of students will meet or exceed on the state reading assessment. And then we also have another internal measure that we're monitoring, which is on our MAP assessment for our English and Spanish. And so this aligns with what Principal Hansen was talking about earlier with one of her building goals that's around reading. And so all of the work that we'll be doing around early literacy really ties into this district goal that we have. So along with the framework, as I mentioned before, there is a grant that comes with it. It's a non-competitive application-based grant. And so it's available to all school districts and eligible charter schools. It's to support the implementation of early literacy plans and the framework that the state has put out. And so we did submit our application in January. This year for the Jumpstart, because all of the applications and everything came out a little bit late, they did say that we could present this to the school boards following the January 8th deadline to turn it in. And so the state just is not evaluating our application until we presented it to you and get board approval. So we have submitted the application, but ODE is currently just holding it until we submit the information that it was presented to you and that you approve it. So the state overall has allocated $90 million for this biennium to fund these initiatives. And so that's approximately $825,000 for Woodburn for this year and next year.
So basically 2 school years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So there are some restrictions on how you can use these funds. So the bulk of the money needs to be spent on pre-K through 3rd grade.
There are some allowable expenses that you can have for fourth and fifth grade. In the first year, you can spend 20% of your allocation on fourth and fifth, and then in the second year, 10%. I'm not sure what they'll do for subsequent years because this is intended to be long-term funding. I don't know if they'll keep it at the 10% for fourth and fifth grade, or if they'll eliminate the option to support fourth and fifth grade with these funds. But for now, there are some limits on if you want to use it for fourth and fifth. You don't have to. So as I mentioned before, we're getting about 400,000 each year. And so Nicole's going to talk a little bit about how we are currently implementing some initiatives that we have in the district around the 8 different pillars of the early literacy framework. And then we'll talk about how we're going to actually spend these funds.
Okay, so like Chrissy said, there are 8 different pillars involved in the framework, and those are also 8 areas that we had to report on in the grant application itself. And so we've given you a very nice bullet point here. We have a several-page document that we submitted to the state that explains all of the different ways that we're meeting each of these sections already. And then through the grant process, we're talking about how we can bolster some of these areas with this funding. So currently, you can see we have like those notes up there. One of them, the very first section is about belonging. That's a theme that's running through everything that ODE is presenting, and you saw it come up in all the presentations tonight. It's really important to us as a district, and there are various ways we're doing it. The 2 that we highlighted here are our PBIS structures and the conditions for learning that are embedded in our instructional framework. Section 2 is about how we're doing family and community partnerships. Some of the examples we have that are particular to this early literacy in K2 or K3 is Jumpstart Kindergarten. We also have Family University, and there are some family literacy events that are especially geared towards elementary schools. The third section is about oral language development. We have a ton of professional development that's centered around that. Same thing with section 4 about the different reading models that are based in research. Especially this year, we've entered into a partnership with Oregon RTI, and that's one that you'll see appear here in multiple sections because it's helping us with the oral language as a root of literacy development, also the reading models based in research, and our use of foundational skills in instruction. So that's a partnership that's really helping us a lot to just, like I said, amplify some of the work that we've been doing already. And then there's a section about what kind of materials we're using and how we're helping to build the different domains of language development and literacy. So we just adopted language arts materials in the last 2 years, and so that's something that we're exploring, continuing to implement, and then also doing professional development on. And we've spoken with you all several times about materials and also just our curriculum that is standards-based and drives our instruction. And that's another thing that they like to know about and is key to one of the pillars of the early literacy framework. So that's like in a nutshell, like I said, multiple pages sort of distilled quickly for you that meet the different pillars of the literacy framework and that were an integral part of the grant application. So the second part of the grant application is like, okay, you told us how you were meeting all of the aims of the literacy framework. Now, here are the allowable uses for the grant itself, and then we have to say how we're meeting these and how the grant will help us meet them better. So the things you can use the grant money for are professional development and coaching, as long as it's aligned to research-based literacy strategies. Extended learning programs, which can include home-based summer reading activities or like intensive summer school programs. Those are 2 of the most common ways that happens. It can also be used for high dosage tutoring, which means at least twice a week for 10 weeks. So that's an option that we can explore or utilize these funds for. The adoption and implementation of curricula that uses those literacy strategies, and then literacy specialists and coaches to help implement all of the above. So Sherilyn's going to talk about what we are going to spend the money on.
So when we met as elementary administrators with teaching and learning folks and dug into the grant, we were super excited because since it's non-competitive, that means as long as we follow the rules and apply and do the things they're asking us to do, we will get the money. We're not having to like have winners and losers where some schools will get it and some schools will not. So that was exciting. And it's also exciting that it supports things that we all are focused on. I mean, I talked to you just tonight about how we're focused on literacy development at Heritage. So what we looked at are some opportunities for things that we either are currently doing or are happening in pockets, or things that we wish were happening that we haven't had the resources to all do across the board in all of the buildings. So in terms of professional development and coaching, we have some elementary instructional coaches as well as some LPCs. We have some Monday professional learning where we can focus on biliteracy. We have time where we can actually sub out teachers to write biliteracy lessons, because it's not just writing lessons into languages. It's about all of those things you can do to bridge from one language to another, because once you understand a concept, you can then bridge over and learn that the vocabulary in the partner language. Learning Walks talks a little bit about the same kind of thing that I talked to you about that we're planning to do at Heritage, where you get a chance to walk into each other's classrooms and learn from each other. Estrella Lunita training is for teachers in kindergarten and first grade, and to a lesser extent, second grade. This is some early literacy work that focuses on the phonic structure of Spanish. So Spanish early literacy, there are some things you can do to teach reading because it's such a phonetic language. The multi-tiered systems of support work and the partnership with Oregon TLI. Of course, we have our new teacher mentors. We have our learning together here conference here, as well as opportunities to learn outside. The extended learning opportunities can be things that happen during the school year and can happen other places. For example, that kindergarten jumpstart, which we did last year. Now that we have a little more time, that we know that we can apply for this grant and get money to support that, we're really excited about being able to really flesh that out and to integrate it more with what's going to happen in the coming school year. We learned about how to do it last year. All of us got a chance to do it, and we're getting a chance to really dive into it again this next year. Can also help us with summer school funding opportunities where it's more open to any primary kids, as opposed, well, not any, but more primary kids, as opposed to having, say, federal dedicated funds that limit who we can invite to come to summer school. Family University, again, this is another opportunity for extended learning where parents and kids can come and learn together. And Partners in Print is an opportunity for parents to come and learn how to be a partner at home with family literacy with young kids as they're learning how to read, and helping parents to know how to read to and with kids, and activities that they can do to foster literacy in the home. Opportunities for high dosage tutoring would include things like the reading specialist work that happens during the school day, so that in addition to getting reading instruction in the classroom, they get extra reading instruction from a dedicated reading intervention teacher who knows how to do it and do it well. Another opportunity will be after school intervention, so that in addition to having things during the day, opportunities after school to give additional instruction.
I have a question. I heard earlier pre-K through third grade is the focus, and what do we have here for pre-K?
So I can't speak too much to it, but I can tell you that one of the things that I'm super excited about is that we've expanded the pre-K program, and I'm not going to speak about the preschool grant work that, and the stuff that's doing with the early learning hubs and all those things, but we are partnering with folks in many fronts, including having more preschool classes, preschool classrooms in the district and on our campuses. I'm super excited to have the Russian preschool in our kindergarten pod. Those kids literally are going to move next door the next year. So it already feels like they're coming to school, right? So that helps them with that sense of belonging. That helps them with the routines and feeling like this is their school and they know how it all works. So I'll let you talk to the money part of that, but.
Yeah, we have several other funds that support preschool. And so when we considered how to use this grant, we thought about all of the different funding sources that we have in the district and the things that we're currently doing or want to be doing, and how those are funded, and then what the restrictions are on these funds. And so for preschool, they do have a significant amount of funding that comes from different sources, with Title I or My Grant, Preschool Promise. And the preschool teachers participate in a significant amount of professional learning that's tied to the preschool and early learning programs. And so I can't speak directly to what all of those different types of trainings are, but I do know that they, as an entire team, they attend several different professional learning opportunities around the different components of preschool, which would include literacy.
So then the focus for this grant would be K through third grade?
That's how we've decided to use it, yeah, is for K through 3. So, while Nicole talked about the different areas that you can fund, you don't have to fund all of those areas out of the grant. Districts have the option to choose one of the areas or 2 of the areas, or you can fund all of the areas. But you have to fund something within those allowable categories. And so when we, you can go to the next one. So when we met and, like I said, looked at all of the different funds that we have in the district and how we're funding these different activities and initiatives and projects, we decided for this grant that we wanted to allocate funding for 0.5 reading specialists at each of the elementary schools. That has previously been funded in Title I. And so, so going forward, there would be 0.5 funded from this grant, and then 0.5, the other half of each person would be from Title I. So if you have questions about that, I don't know if I explained that very clearly. And then a 0.5 instructional coach for literacy instruction, which was previously funded in SIA. And then the MAP reading fluency assessment for K-1 students, which is a very small amount, and then the administrative costs. And in the board memo that I gave you, it has a breakdown of the actual budget for the next 2 years. So if you wanted to see, it's in the board memo.
So where it says previously funded, does that mean that this grant will take over these funds, or we don't have this position now, but we will because of this?
No, these are positions that we do currently have, and so instead of funding it from Title I, we're moving it over. So Title I has more flexibility in what you can spend it on. And so, for example, schools will be able to spend some of the Title I funds, they could spend it on Kindergarten Jumpstart now, where, or they could spend it on different things that they're doing in their buildings to support their school improvement plans. Where this grant is very specific to those categories that are allowable, Title I has a lot more flexibility. So by moving 0.5 reading specialists for each school into this fund, that frees up Title I funds for different, for different expenditures.
But currently, Title I covered that, like, elementary teacher, the reading specialist.
Yes.
So basically, you want to only use half of that from this grant?
Yeah, there is not enough money in this grant to fund 1.0 FTE reading specialists for each school, for each of the 4 schools. So there's only enough to do 0.5 for each school.
And over the years, if you recall, through the budget process, we've seen how the Title I has decreased. And so this grant provides like some sustainability to be able to sustain those efforts and those people to provide those services for kids.
Yeah.
And what are administrative costs? What does that cover?
Every grant has administrative costs that go with it, and so it's funds that a district can use to cover the costs that it takes to manage the grant. And so,
So someone kind of oversees the grant?
right.
And gets paid for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's just, but yeah, the cost that a district incurs to do the reporting, to, do the funding, all of the pieces that go with it.
It doesn't create a new position, it just covers the
Correct.
extended
Right.
hours or whatever, one of you guys or somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I looked at that, have it up in front of me. $20,000, is that at 5%? Is that OD's capped at 5% for admin costs, assuming?
Yeah, they give us the amount that's the maximum amount that you can use.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And is this the max?
For the administrative costs? Yes. So the next slide just has the timeline, just if you're interested in kind of where we've been, where we're going. So in October, November is when they rolled out this application process, and we started working on it. And then we did submit it by January 8th. And then by the end of this month, we need to have presented it to you and give you the option to approve it. And then ODE will kind of go through their process and have all the grant agreements in place between March and May with districts. We can go ahead and use the expenditures and backdate those to October 1st of 2023 once everything is in place. And so we will be able to use the funds for this year as well, even
then
though
that-
their timeline is is much later.
So then that frees up funds from what was already allocated for previously
Yep.
for something else.
Yep.
Those funds go to our ending fund balance.
No, because most of them are Title I funds, and so they live within that grant, that Title I grant. And so those have to be expended within a year. You can carry some of it over, but you try to spend those during the year that they're allocated.
So for example, let's say you wanted to do Partners in Print, and so you had a series of 4 or 6 nights that, over successive weeks of classes with parents. You need to make sure that you've got people who are paid because they're coming in at night to do the things. You have the materials, you have refreshments for parents. Those kinds of things are not super expensive, but over 6 weeks, they add up, right? And this grant allows us to have a little bit more money to be able to do some of those things that we may have lots of things we'd like to do, but we only have this much money to do it. Well, maybe now we have this much, maybe we can plan more things. Now that we know, assuming that it gets approved, that we could fund those things for this year too, which is pretty cool.
And then we also included on here the Profile of Woodburn Student, which you have done. And on the presentation tonight, I'm sharing with you what our language arts and our English language proficiency adoption committee did last year when they went through, or 2 years ago now, 2 years ago, when they thought about what it looks like for a student to leave our system successful in language arts by literacy and language proficiency. And so you can see some of the outcomes that committee identified. And then the final slide is our district MTSS team, which they did this year, thinking about what it leaves for our students to leave our system successful in literacy and biliteracy. And so as we engage in this work for implementing the early literacy framework and leveraging these funds, we'll keep these types of outcomes in mind and keep students at the center of all of the work that we're doing, and try to achieve these outcomes for every student in our system.
So looking at this is what we already have now in place.
Which thing are you saying?
Like what you're proposing today, the grant application, the 0.5 reading and the 0.5 instructional coach. That's what we currently have now.
Yes, we could. Yeah, those positions already exist in our district. Yeah. Yeah, there are people already in those positions.
But you said Title I is more flexible, so you can utilize those funds for other avenues.
Right, yeah. So like some of the schools, like you can do extended day, like after school interventions with that money, or you can do your family literacy nights, or you can do
Schools will be able to work with their site councils and their leadership teams to look at, again, here's what our school goal is, what are some things that we can take action on to be able to support us in reaching our goals. But creates some greater flexibility to be able to do things.
So I always tell people as a principal, my first and most important job is student safety. And then the second job right after that is hiring the right people. And we have the right people. But some of the money that we have in some of our dedicated funds, title funds and whatnot, it's basically almost all in the people. So we don't have much room, and you don't hire, 8/10 of a person, right? So we don't have that flexibility to be able to say, and on top of that, we'd like to be able to run these after-school programs 3 days a week, or we'd like to be able to run this series of parent classes. Those things aren't super spendy, but we also don't really have a whole lot of extra money for them. And this gives us the opportunity to keep the people who are so critical to the work that we do and be able to pursue some of those avenues we also know are really important in helping develop that sense of belonging, helping to bring community to the table, and helping foster early literacy in ways that we may not have the ability to do at the moment. So we're pretty excited about it because it seems to be a relatively stable source of funding and gives us the opportunity to think outside the box and do more of the things that we'd like to be able to do.
So it would free up that large amount that you're stating, the over 400. So we have a plan of how we're going to use these new funds.
I'm sure if I talk to my site council, they'll have some ideas.
But do we have a plan for how we're going to use the 400,000?
So each building has an improvement plan that they're working on that has goals identified in it. And so as Superintendent Lario said, they work with their leadership teams, their site councils to identify like what they need to do in their buildings in order to meet those goals that they have set. And so, for example,
Heritage has 3,
yeah.
And those are developed with site council and leadership. And so Heritage, for example, has a school improvement plan, and we just heard about tonight what those 3 goals are, right? We're going to improve community engagement. We're going to improve attendance. We're going to improve reading achievement through developing reading vocabulary. We've already had input from site councils on those things. We've had input from our school leadership on those things. And there are things that maybe they'd like to do, but maybe they couldn't afford to do. Like maybe teachers would like to not just videotape themselves in a lesson and then watch it after school. Maybe they'd like to have 4 subs come in for the day so they can all get into everybody's classrooms, right? Well, that costs money. That's the kind of thing that we might be able to do if we have this grant. Parents might want to have a full series of classes from the Early Learning Hub. These are things that we talk about with Site Council about how can we help families to improve literacy. So it just gives us more flexibility to be able to do some of the things that a lot of our community and leadership teams have already said they're excited about and interested in doing. So I'm excited about the possibility of coming back and saying, good news, you guys.
And so how does this amount get distributed among all?
There's a formula that is used for Title I to do the building allocations, and I honestly can't speak to the details of that. And then the pieces that were in the SIA, there was a little bit of this that was initially in SIA that just, that stays kind of at the integrated plan level. And so when we initially wrote that plan, we didn't have the actual salaries for all of the people. And so now Sarah's gone through and like put in actual salaries into that plan, which increased the amount. It was higher than what we had budgeted. And so this helped offset those differences between what we thought people's salaries would be and what the actuals are. And so for SIA, it just got absorbed into what those actual salaries ended up being for all of the positions in the SIA plan. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Now I'm like, what was your question? Now I feel like lost track of what your question was.
So then, in the presentation today, how are you going to measure the effectiveness? If this works or not?
Yeah, it does, yeah. I don't know that I remember the specific.
We haven't seen like the reporting back to ODE on the literacy grant, but if I was a betting woman, I would say anything that we identify as something that is going to be like the reading specialist will fall under high dosage tutoring when it comes to us reporting back to what the student impact was. And so I would expect that we would need to report back on the students who were served through that tutoring, what the impact was. So I think that would be one measure likely that we would need to report back.
And I think earlier in the slides, there was a slide that had things like, for example, by the end of the 23-24 school year, 15% of third grade students will meet or exceed on the state reading assessment, which I'm going to highlight is in English, right? So that's why that's you're like 15. It's like, yes, that's reading in the partner language for most students. And then grades 2 through 10 having a positive growth index score, which means that they're catching up. So, so those are some pretty concrete ways that we're trying in our strategic plan to demonstrate proficiency in all academic areas. So these would be goals that you could look at to see how effective the grant is at helping kids to achieve in reading.
So if we have these services provided to students now, is this what we use to measure?
This is among the things that we use. The district has goals and has outcomes for their strategic plan, and then has measures at the district level. Then buildings have their own measures with their own school improvement plans. So there's measures at the district level, there's measures at the school level. And then I presume that, again, there's going to be some, the state will tell us, and here's the other things we'd like to know.
Okay, I'm just wondering, like I get more services and more programs and more money is good, but I also want to know, like, what is the
working?
growth
Right.
throughout the year,
Yeah.
not when they're in third grade.
Right.
By having this common measure, the measure of academic performance, the MAP assessment, and then we're able to dial in like which students were served by these teachers, which students received what services, and be able to track like, okay, this service worked for this group of students because they showed that growth, they met that growth target, and that's one way to be able to measure like the impact of this work. The impact of anything that we do, we should be able to go back and look at this growth, like our summer school, after school programs, our high dosage tutoring, be able to go back and measure and say, okay, this group of students received this service, did their gains meet the target?
But I hear your question too about kindergarten and first grade, and because if we're talking about second grade, we actually do measures of academic progress with reading fluency as early as kindergarten. We do that 3 times a year in the language that they're studying in, and then in the partner language at least once a year. So we do have those measures. It's kind of clunky and awkward to write the growth for those because it measures slightly different things. But we do have those measures for K1. That's how we identified vocabulary at Heritage as a goal, because vocabulary was a challenge even in kinder and first grade. So, so there are things we can use at the building and district level with all grades. So it's a good question.
Earlier, you mentioned that there's subs for the biliteracy curriculum. So does that just gives more funding to you guys, or does that provide an opportunity for another position for some, because you're going to be subbing that out, right? You're basically contracting that additional work out instead of doing it yourself.
When we were talking about the biliteracy work,
Yeah.
the subbing out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, we're not funding that out of this particular grant. We have a different funding source for that, but it would pay for substitute teachers so that teachers could, be subbed out to work on those lessons and units. And so,
Substitutes, not subcontract.
yeah.
But it's not coming from this grant.
It's not from this grant. It's some work that's connected to what we're doing for early literacy, which is why we mentioned it, because there are a lot of things we're doing to already meet the requirements of this grant that aren't necessarily funded out of this grant. And so that was a part of what we had to show in the application, was how we are meeting the high dosage tutoring, extended learning, and professional development. And so that's one of the activities we're doing to meet professional development, but it's not funded out of here. You still had to, even though we're not going to fund professional development out of here per se, we still have to show how we're doing it. And so, yeah, and we still have to report on it for this grant. So it's a little different than other grants where we have to report on things we're doing, even if we're not funding them out of here. So we are doing that, but it's just funded out of a different pot of money. Does that make sense?
There's stuff we have to
Or-
be doing to get the money,
Right.
and then there's stuff we're going to do with the money, not necessarily.
Then can you go to slide 9? Like one more.
That's almost at the
This
beginning.
this one. So these are all things that we're we have to
do the professional development coaching, we have to do extended learning programs, and we have to do high dosage tutoring in order to qualify for this grant. And we could fund one of those areas out of this grant, or we could fund 2 of them or 3 of them. So we decided to fund one of them, the high dosage tutoring, which is our reading specialists, is where predominantly we're spending this money. But we still have to do the other 2 areas. And so this slide demonstrates what we are doing in all 3 areas. But this is multiple funding sources combined, the work that we're doing on this slide.
We're not gonna do summer school.
We are,
We are.
but it's
not
just a
budget.
different fund.
It's just not funded.
Yeah, it's like Title I and migrant, mostly migrant.
And like, for instance, for example, summer school, right now is mainly funded by Title I. And with this grant, it'll be available to more students.
No, I mean, not with this particular money. It could be through some Title I funds, because now we've freed up some Title I funds. But we were not using this money for summer school.
Just because you're utilizing some of the funds from this one in other positions, that money that's in Title I is going to be available.
For different things, yeah, which, whoops, summer school could be one of those things, yeah.
So you're going to have to report back to the state of your progress, your benchmarks, and,
Oh, yeah. They don't give us any money without a lot of reporting. So, yeah. Yeah, every funding source, we have to provide some sort of report. I mean, all of the like federal funds and extra grants and things like this, we have to do some sort of reporting back to them. So they haven't really laid out exactly what the reporting will be for this yet, but yeah, there will be some reporting.
Title I does have nothing to do with this one, but because of all the development in the district, hasn't that funding decreased because are we almost not at as a Title I district?
We're still we still receive Title I funds in all of our schools. It's just Title I at the federal level, the amount of money allocated to Title I has decreased over the years. And so our allocation has gotten less and less.
But you're correct that at some point, it's possible that not every building will cost, because it's based on census data and poverty level. And so there, depending on what happens in the future, yeah, the money per child has gotten less from the feds, and the population has gradually shifted in Woodburn. So that is always possible.
And
And
so
at this time, the high school is now Title I, right?
it still is, yeah,
Okay. I thought it wasn't.
yeah. It's,
Yeah, I remember that. Right.
On one of the
So all of our
Seven
schools
part.
are.
it's targeted, I guess.
Targeted.
Yeah, it's not school, yeah.
So they get Title I money, but it's targeted assistance revenue.
Specifically for students who qualify for.
There's different reporting requirements, different tracking requirements, different ways. So they get title money, but there's different.
Any other questions for our presenters?
Right.
Thank you for answering all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina.
moving on to agenda number 7. Our future agenda items, which I feel like we have a list of items. But if there are other interests or topics you would like to hear about.
If I could back the board up for just a minute on back to the last agenda item, we do need an action. So there's a.
Oh, we need a motion.
Yeah, we have to move.
Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, we need a. I don't see it there.
I recommend to
on the
approve the application for the Early Literacy Success Grant.
Is there a second? All in favor to approve the application for the Early Literacy Success Grant, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Any topics for future agenda items? If not, we can move on. Board calendar, February 13th is our next board meeting, February 27th and March 12th. And then I think it's spring break.
And then it's what now?
Spring break.
Oh, right.
Okay. So we have made it to the end of our agenda, and it is almost 8:40, and I adjourn this meeting for today.
Thank you all.
I won't be in it.
What time is, when is
11:30, and we'll start.